annual work program was in 2018. And so far we have completed or concluded successfully 3 annual work programs. And following to what I have just said, that it is a very competitive program, and the numbers here may reflect what I was referring to. In 3 calls, more than 1,700 submissions from 14 or more than 14,000 entities from the 19 participating states, of which all participating states have participated. At the end, we were able to fund 129 projects, which is not really bad, although we were hoping to fund more projects with a budget of more than 167 million euros. As you know, the funding in PRIMA is about €500 million over the 7 years where we will have annual work programs, of which 220 from the European Commission, and of course 275 or a little more from the participating states, and Turkey is one of those participating states. The next number here, the 25%, is the participating of the NPCs or the non-European in PRIMA, and Turkey is one of those countries. The budget share is about 30% for the private sector and Section 1, which is totally funding from the EU contribution to this program, and the number of beneficiaries, more than 1,100 beneficiaries. I don't want to go through all the numbers here. Maybe we go to the Turkey achievement, which is the next slide. Okay, because well, if you go back to the previous one, I just want to highlight, please, Mohammed, that all those numbers are from the PRIMA analytical tool that has been produced by the PRIMA Secretariat, and also thanks to Mohammed here, who has done a great job also in contributing to bring this tool to life, which gives you a detailed analysis or a detailed information about the calls and about the progress so far in the PRIMA program. This is a good tool for all, let's say, NCPs. It's a good tool to grab some information that is useful to, let's say, support or enhance the position of PRIMA towards getting more political support. So again, thanks to Mohammed, and I just wanted to let you know about this tool if you don't know already about it, but we have advanced in that. Going back to Turkey and the participation of Turkey, you may see here that Turkey is one of the most active countries in the participation in the PRIMA program, with more than 539 submissions from 772 participants here. It's good to highlight that the total allocated budget for the Turkish beneficiaries here is really distinguished. It's above 8 million euros from the 3 calls, which is more than the other, let's say, countries, especially in the NPCs here, or the non-European countries in the PRIMA program, with a success rate of 8%. And this is above average, of course, which is, I think, is around 7%. So Turkey is, again, doing really great in this program, and we hope that you continue doing so, because, I mean, with the current STI status in Turkey, I think you have the potential and you have the capabilities of doing that. Most importantly also, or it's a distinguished achievement, that Turkey is coordinating 3 projects. And as you could imagine, that the coordination under the PRIMA program is really a challenge, not because we want coordinators to be from the non-European countries, but also to encourage researchers to be coordinators, so that they are more closer to creating our projects that are really tackling the serious problems in the non-EU countries or in the Mediterranean non-EU part, let's put it this way, because there are several challenges. And this is one of the reasons why PRIMA was created. It's not to discriminate against any country, but in order to bring the level of knowledge and to enhance the capacity of some researchers in a certain geographic location, let's put it this way, up to the limit or closer to the excellence in some other geographic location. So thanks again for your participation. Thanks for hosting this meeting. And I wish you all the best and to have a very successful training. Thank you very much.
So now I think our director, Mr. Mete Karaca, would like to make his opening remarks.
Thank you, Eda. And good afternoon, our esteemed guests and friends from PRIMA and distinguished members of the Turkish research community. I would like to start by welcoming you all this training, which we believe will be a great success. We are proud to have such valuable experts in the Turkish research community who are already doing great work and achieving many important results in the areas of water management, farming systems, and agro-food value chain. I am pleased to know that the valuable expertise and experience of our friends from PRIMA will greatly contribute to our country's already great research potential. I thank the PRIMA staff on behalf of all of us for taking the time and making the effort to share their valuable knowledge and expertise with us, as well as for their commitment to the excellence of the PRIMA program. During the first 3 calls of the program, our researchers have made us extremely proud with their success. And we hope and believe that the training to be provided here during these 2 days will add to our success. In fact, our researchers have made us extremely proud with their success in PRIMA program. In the first call in 2018, Turkish researchers were partners in 5 different projects with a total budget of 1.2 million euros in section 1. And we as TÜBİTAK have funded 9 successful projects in section 2 with a total budget of 7.2 million Turkish liras plus incentives. In 2019, Turkish researchers took part in 7 different projects with a total budget of over 1.5 million euros in section 1. And in section 2, TÜBİTAK has funded 10 successful projects with a total budget of 6.5 million Turkish liras. Furthermore, in this call, Turkey was the coordinator of 1 project in section 1 and 1 project in section 2. I am very proud to inform you that in this year, 2020 section 1 call, Turkish researchers are partners in 7 projects and coordinator in 1 project with a total budget of more than 2.6 million euros. And we will fund, as on behalf of TÜBİTAK, 4 different projects in section 2. Since the beginning of the PRIMA program in 2018, in section 1, a total of approximately 300 applications have been made from Turkey and 20 projects have been funded. In section 2, a total of 220 proposals have been made and 23 projects have been funded. These numbers indicate that with the PRIMA program, Turkey has added to its success within the Horizon 2020 program. Our success in the Horizon 2020 program has gained a great momentum in the past 2 years. And our nation's researchers have received nearly 300 million euros in grants from Horizon 2020 program. This means that for the first time since 2004 that Turkey is first attending the framework programs, as an associated country, we have received more funds that we have contributed. With the announcement of the results of other costs, which are yet to be finalized, we believe that this amount will be higher than 300 million euros before the program ends. Furthermore, in the past 2 years, our researchers have gone beyond taking part in projects solely as partners. They have become coordinators in these multi-partner projects as well. Until 2019, the number of coordinators from Turkey was only 7, but in the past 2 years, this number has risen to 29. I am very pleased that 2 of these coordinators are here with us today. In addition to our expert trainers from PRIMA, Professor Fatih Özol from Çukurova University and Associated Professor Mecit Öztok from Middle East Technical University have very kindly agreed to share their experience with us as successful PRIMA project coordinators. We hope you will benefit from their experience because we would like to see more coordinators from Turkey in PRIMA. I would like to conclude by thanking everyone here, both trainers and researchers, for their participation and efforts, and wish you all a successful training. Thank you, Mohammed. Now it's your word.
Thank you so much. So because we are for sure a little bit beyond the schedule, so we will start directly with giving you a quick intro about the training for the 2 days. Okay, we finished the, I think you can see my screen now. Okay. So we just finished the opening and we will give you a quick introduction about the overview of the program for the 2 days. Session 1 will start now by my colleague Marco, who will give us the PRIMA introduction and the thematic area and different topics and actions in PRIMA, and then followed by the application process and the templates. Then Eda and our colleagues from TÜBİTAK will present to you Section 2 and the national regulation for Turkey, or like how to apply to the TÜBİTAK in order to receive funds from Section 2. And then session 3, it's for identifying the main characteristics of the winning proposals, giving you some tips and tricks. And then we will have a break for 15 minutes. Then we will finish the day by session 4, which is starting with how to write a competitive proposal at the stage 1, because as you may know that PRIMA is a 2-stage submission. So today we will give to you how to apply and to write and develop your pre-proposal application for the first stage. And we will finish by the 2 success stories as Mete shared with us. And then we will devote the last session for the Q&A, but also over the day, you can ask your questions and we will answer it regularly. And then tomorrow, again, we will recap the day 1 and the main point that we shared with you today. Then we will present how to write the competitive proposal, the stage 2 or the second stage or the full application, and then some questions and answers, and how to plan your research proposal, some useful tool that may help you to draft your idea and your proposal. And then the PRIMA financial manager, our colleague Pau Jill, will join us for session 7. He will present to you how to develop your budget and what are the eligible and ineligible costs. And we will finish with some useful advices on how to build a winning consortium. What are the main advices or recommendations or tools that can help you to build your consortium? This is the some instruction that all mics and videos will be switched off just for the organization. All training materials are going to be circulated to the National Funding Agency and then to all of you for sure after the workshop. For any question, as our colleague from TÜBİTAK said, that you can send it on the question and answers or on the chat. On the chat, if you have something like you cannot hear us or you have some problem on following us. For the Q&A, if this is something like questions related to the PRIMA, so we can text to you or we can answer it on the Q&A. And this is the links for our staff as well as for Turkey National Contact Point, and you can find all this information on the PRIMA website. Thank you so much, and now I will move the mic to my colleague Marco to start session 1. And it seems that some of you already start texting on the question and answers and on the chat. I will reply while he is presenting his part. So Marco, the floor is yours.
Okay, I hope you can hear me. I should be sharing my presentation now and you should be able to see it. Please confirm, Mohammed or Eda. Okay, perfect. So good afternoon to everyone and thanks a lot to the PRIMA and TÜBİTAK colleagues for the introduction. I'm sure we're a bit late, but we will manage to do what we have planned by the agreed time. And again, my name is Marco Orlando. I am one of the PRIMA project officer. I deal with the water management thematic area. As you know, this is a program which tackles several areas. And I will be giving you a brief introduction just to explain what is the mission of the program, what is the structure of the program. And later on, we are going also to go much more in detail with the specific tips for the research proposal writing, to how to write a good proposal for PRIMA. Okay, so without further ado, let's move on. This is the table of contents for the presentation. As I was saying, an overview, the history of PRIMA, the mission, the vision, the calls structure, because we have different calls for proposals, different types, how the evaluation procedure work once the projects, the proposals are submitted by the researchers. And later, Mohammed will be explaining also how to fill out, where to find and how to fill out and prepare the application forms. Okay, PRIMA is a challenge-based program. The reason why it exists, it is because we are a region populated by 500 million people who are sharing the same issues. Not only now, but even in the future, we will be a single people sharing challenges that we have to try and solve. And research and innovation can be a means to tackle these challenges, like, for example, climate change and its adverse impacts on water systems and on agriculture. The population growth clearly leads to food security issues, which it is easy to understand what are the interrelations with the other problems that I mentioned, that is water scarcity and the other issues affecting agricultural systems in the Mediterranean. We also think of the environment, okay? So it's not only about thinking of how we can benefit from research and innovation for our own, okay, for the benefit of the people, of society, but also PRIMA focuses on the agrobiological diversity loss and on all the ecological issues which the Mediterranean is facing. And another keyword that you can see in this slide is innovation. Because innovation is something that we want to push, we want to boost in the region, especially, well, in the agro-food value chains, as you can see here, because they are very traditional in this region, but also in agriculture and in the sector of water management. Now, how can we address these challenges? It goes without saying that such a big area like the Mediterranean, and I want to remind you that the PRIMA program has 19 participating countries participating in it, must pool resources, must create a critical mass of actors and financial resources and intellectual capital to address these challenges. We believe that this is the way to go, as I believe also the director mentioned before, the director of PRIMA, Omar Amawi. And obviously this is only possible if the research systems of these 19 participating countries, they come together, they identify common priorities, common challenges, and in doing so, they try to pool some financing for research that can contribute to strengthening research itself and innovation capacity in all the participating countries. Now, the legal basis on which PRIMA is based is the so-called Article 185, which provides a suitable instrument which provided a suitable instrument for the creation of such a complex initiative like PRIMA, which is basically based on the equal footing principle. So all the participating states participate with the same importance. They share responsibility in the implementation of the program, and they have the same common view on how to solve these societal, environmental and economic challenges that we are facing. All these participating states, they commit with an agreement for the long term in order to avoid the fragmentation and duplications in research and innovation at Mediterranean level, by focusing on a common Mediterranean-wide 10-year long strategic research and innovation agenda. This is a document which is very important that you should read, because it provides the most important information on what are the main priorities of the program. And obviously we will be sharing this document with you. Another important element that the partnership is based on is the development and of institutional relationships with Mediterranean stakeholders. Because while PRIMA looks at the research community as well, we want to bridge researchers with the end users, the final beneficiaries that can benefit from the project's result, all the Mediterranean communities at large, but also the private sector, that is enterprises, NGOs, and the public sector at large, that is governments, local authorities, and so on. So we really want to push this concept of the, we could say, quadruple helix, and bring together all types of stakeholders, researchers, business, and so on. Very quickly about the PRIMA history, the idea of having a Mediterranean partnership focused on research and innovation was first debated almost 10 years ago during the first Euro-Mediterranean Conference on Research and Innovation in Barcelona in 2012. And after 5 years of intense political negotiations at Euro-Mediterranean level, the European Union and the governments of these 19 participating states basically were able to conclude an agreement and launch the partnership in 2017. In 2018, after the endorsement of the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda by all the partners, we were able to launch the first round of calls for proposals. And since then, we have launched other 2 rounds. That makes 3 rounds. We are going to be launching soon the new round of calls for proposals. And that's why we are preparing you with some useful tips and information that may for sure come handy if you decide to submit a proposal. This is another important slide for you because it gives you an example. I mean, it shows which are the countries involved in the program. And it's important for you because it means that you, when you are building your consortium to submit a proposal, these are the countries where you should look for partners. As you can see, we have 11 member states. Most of them are the so-called Mediterranean European countries, the southern ones, while we have also other partners, including Turkey, which are not from the European Union. We have 8 non-EU countries, mostly from North Africa and the Middle East. Something about the vision. Research for us is a means to reach a vision that is basically, we want to contribute to the inclusiveness, healthiness, and prosperousness of the Mediterranean societies by, again, funding research and innovation in these sectors, that is agro-food systems, water systems, and agriculture. And another imperative for us is to promote practices and technology which are sustainable and that can preserve also the natural resources that we have that are limited, while contributing also to the economic growth and stability of the Mediterranean area. Again, yes, we support and promote research and innovation, and the fields, again, are water scarcity, and the problems that we try and address are water scarcity, agriculture, issues in the agriculture sector, and food security related issues. Something about the structure of the of PRIMA. PRIMA was established as a private entity, as a foundation under Spanish law. In fact, we are based in Barcelona. That's where we have our headquarters. It was established as a private entity in June 2017. All the 19 participating states are members of the foundation. In fact, one representative for each of these countries sits in the board of trustees, where we also have the European Commission and the Union for the Mediterranean as observers. The PRIMA Secretariat is the operational body, is the operational arm that is responsible for the technical implementation of the program, and it's basically the body to which myself and my colleagues belong, my colleagues who spoke before me. And for the preparation of our annual work plans, we have also the support of a scientific advisory committee, okay, which includes members which have experience in science, in research and science, in transnational projects, and they come mostly from the PRIMA participating states. Another important information for you is the budget. The total budget that we are implementing and that will be disbursed to fund research projects is of almost 500 million euros, 220 million coming from the European Union and 274 million coming from the participating states. And so far, again, as it was presented before, already 170 million in total have been allocated to research projects. The strategic research and innovation agenda is the technical, scientific core basis of the PRIMA program. It is a document which kind of encompasses the collection of lots of inputs and feedback that we received in the past when we carried out a consultation process which involved experts, stakeholders from all the sectors, researchers, businesses, and so on, and which identified the 3 thematic areas to address for the program and the main priorities that we can recognize within each of these thematic areas. What we do is basically, we launch calls every year, but these are part of the so-called annual work plans, which is the document, there is a new one every year, which details all the activities that PRIMA is going to implement on a yearly basis, including, as I said, the calls for proposals. So these are the 3 main thematic areas: integrated and sustainable management of water for arid and semi-arid Mediterranean areas, sustainable farming systems under Mediterranean environmental constraints, and sustainable Mediterranean agri-food value chain for regional and local development. Now, what is very interesting to say is that apart from focusing on these 3 sectors and apart from launching calls tackling these sectors, PRIMA also is focused on boosting the nexus approach in the Mediterranean. As you know, the nexus is relatively young as a concept. For those who are not familiar with this concept, we are looking at the interrelations between these 3 thematic areas that I'm mentioning, because what we want really to push is also a swift. We don't want researchers to just investigate, to just research their research areas without like staying in a silo. Okay, confining themselves into studying water systems without being aware of what the interrelations with the other sectors are. So we'd rather fund also research tackling the nexus between water, agriculture, and agri-food than encouraging the researchers to carry out more traditional type of research. So it's very interesting for you also to check the calls addressing the nexus and the activities that PRIMA is promoting in this direction. Now, very quickly, I'd like to show you the main priorities which were identified for each sector, okay, for each thematic area. We're going a bit more in detail, and it's good for you to know that every call which is launched normally focused on 1 or 2, or maybe sometimes even 3 of these priorities, because we may have a focus. For example, I'll go through the priorities first, and then I'll explain. The first priority that we have identified for water is water resources availability and quality within catchments and aquifers. A second one is the sustainable integrated water management. Then we have irrigation technologies and practices. And last, we have use of alternative water resources. Now you will see when we publish the calls that normally we identify in each call text the main priorities in underwater that we want to tackle with the specific call which is published. So one year, for example, you may have a call which is focusing mostly on the improvement of irrigation technologies and practices. Like, for example, we did last year when we published a call aiming to kind of promote the development or adaptation of irrigation solutions for the Mediterranean with a specific focus on smallholders. So when you read the call, you will really see that one or two of these priorities are more evident. And that is how you're going to also tailor more your proposal to tackle a specific sub-priority or a set of sub-priorities. Quickly, we moved on to the farming systems thematic area. Even here, we have 4 main priorities that PRIMA wants to tackle. Adaptation of agriculture to climate change, a very relevant priority. The development of a sustainable and productive agro-ecosystems. Sustainability is also another keyword that you will see a lot because we want to promote sustainable development in the region. Preventing the emergence of animal and plant diseases. And last but not least, the development, we want to encourage the development of farming systems that are able to generate income, create employment, and contribute to territorial development. The agri-food value chains, thematic area, even here 4 priorities: the valorization of food products from the traditional Mediterranean diet, the promotion of food safety in local food chains, the implementation of innovation in agri-food. As I was saying before, we have very traditional value chains, so we want to encourage the promotion of innovation in agri-food to achieve more quality, to have more sustainability and competitiveness in the value chains, with particular reference to smallholders. Again, this is another recurring keywords that you will hear many times: smallholders, because most of the farmers and the people who work in the food chains in the Mediterranean can be categorized under this category as smallholders. And again, the 4th priority is implications of dietary shifts and sustainable diets for the Med population and food industry. Now, we have talked about 3 thematic areas or thematic pillars. Obviously, what we're looking at when we publish a call, we are going to invest public money in project. We're going to inject some millions of funding into projects, research projects that we want to be multidisciplinary. We want to achieve impact at different levels. And for this reason, as you can see in this slide, in a nutshell, what we want to have is impact at economic level, at social level, and environmental level. It's quite hard to generate lasting impacts at these 3 levels, but that's why also this program is very, very competitive, and we only try to select the projects which can guarantee, even after the duration of the project, after the end, that there is some kind of impact and sustainability which can really, generate a change, in the economy, in the society, or maybe help preserve the environmental resources that we have. Of course, there are very evident links with the Sustainable Development Goals, and as we will explain later when we go into the details, when we give you tips how to write your proposals, you will see the links to the Sustainable Development Goals when you read the calls for proposal that we publish. For example, for water, for sure you will see evident links with the Objective 6, clean water and sanitation. And for sure our calls and our vision are aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. So even when you read the call, look for, try to see what is the link with the SDGs. Normally we highlight what SDG is related with the call, and it's good for you also when you develop your proposals to highlight the relevance of the proposal, not only to the objectives of PRIMA, but also to the SDGs. So this is another important consideration that you might want to bear in mind when you are developing your proposal. The Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda is a key reading for you. I think it's very good for any researcher who is interested in submitting a proposal to have a look at the so-called SRIA, as we call it, because you will have a chance. I mean, for time reasons, we cannot go that much in detail and explain what we have under each thematic area and under each priorities. I mean, I mentioned 4 for each thematic areas. But if you want to have much more detailed information, for sure you should check out this RIA and have a thorough reading of it, because it will help you a lot understand where PRIMA focuses and what we expect from the project, and demonstrating in your projects that you are aligned with the contents of the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda is very, very important to demonstrate that your project is relevant. So we are going to share these materials. Here you have the link to the PRIMA Research and Innovation Agenda. Also, if you go to the official PRIMA website, you will find the link to this document. So I really recommend that you have a look at it. Okay, and just to give you an understanding of the Section 1 and Section 2 of PRIMA are, because some people may get confused. Section 1 is basically actions. Both sections are managed by the PRIMA Foundation, by the PRIMA Secretariat, namely. But obviously, as it was mentioned before, the funding of the program comes from, on the one hand, from the European Union. And for this reason, Section 1 and Section 1 calls are funded with EU funding. Section 2 calls instead are funded by the national funding agencies, like in the case of Turkey, it would be TÜBİTAK. So what happens is that the projects that are submitted to Section 2 calls for proposals, they are evaluated positively, selected, and then they have to be funded. Each beneficiary, each partner of such a project, such a Section 2 project, will receive funding from the national funding agency. So if you submit a Section 2 project, you are evaluated positively, you are selected. Your partners from different countries, they have to contact their national funding agencies, while you will be signing a contract directly with TÜBİTAK. Okay. In any case, the structure, I mean, the way the submission works, the type of templates that we have, and the actions that are required for the submission of both Section 1 and Section 2 projects are the same. The only things that change is the funding and obviously the follow-up, because in the case of Section 2, you will be involved in a follow-up with your national funding agency. Here you can see in this table that it's basically what I was saying before. For both Section 1 and Section 2, we are talking of transnational calls for proposals. So we will be funding a research project which is implemented by a transnational consortium with partners from PRIMA countries. The PRIMA Secretariat, where you see here is PRIMA IS, which is an acronym which stands for PRIMA Implementation Structure. And when you see PRIMA IS or PRIMA Implementation Structure, it's basically the PRIMA Secretariat. So it's the implementing structure. The call is published by PRIMA. The evaluation, again, is performed by the experts that we select, that PRIMA selects. The funding, again, as you can see here, is different. In the case of Section 1, it comes from the EU. In the case of Section 2, from the participating states. The monitoring, again, in the case of Section 1, is done by us, while in the case of Section 2, there is some kind of monitoring and reporting, which involves also the funding agencies. The rules for participation are, most of them are the same, okay, when it comes to submission, evaluation, and so on. However, you should check also the so-called national regulations that are the participating states' rules, okay, to make sure that such national regulations, in the case of TÜBİTAK, we will have a specific presentation on it, but you can also find a specific document with the most important ones to make sure that you know everything about the administrative requirements, eligibility requirements, and so on to submit a proposal. And these documents are also available on the PRIMA website. Quickly, some information on the type of actions, type of projects that PRIMA funds. Obviously, for Section 2, there may be some specific national rules, as I said, but this slide gives you, in a nutshell, what the main differences are between the so-called RIA, IA, and CSA projects, okay? Most of the time, we publish calls for proposals in order to find RIA and IA projects. CSA basically is not that common that we launch it, but it's good for you to know what it is about. Starting from the left side of the screen, we have RIA, which stands from Research and Innovation Action Projects. These projects, they focus more on the earlier stages of technological development and on, let's say, more basic research. In fact, you can see TRL 3 to 5. TRL, for those of you who may not be familiar with this concept, it stands for Technology Readiness Level. And I will show you the next slide. It's about it, just to make sure that you have no doubts about what we mean by TRL 3 to 5 or 5 to 8 and so on. In this case, the funding rate, it is 100%. I'm still talking about the Research and Innovation Action type of project. Funding rate 100% means that in the case of Section 1, the eligible costs of the project are going to be reimbursed 100%. In the case of Section 2, the funding rate may change according to the national rules. So you would have to check specifically with TÜBİTAK what is the funding rate if it's a RIA project under Section 2. And again, we are going to have a presentation on these rules soon. The submission works in 2 stages. So you're going to be submitting a first short proposal of maximum 10 pages. And if you are successful, you will be invited to a second stage and you will submit a bigger, longer, more detailed proposal of 50 pages. Innovation Action, they are called IA. And here we are talking about projects which are closer to the market and include, for example, some prototyping, some demonstration activities, some piloting, scaling up and so on, and that are more oriented towards the development of new or improved products, processes or services. Now here, as you can see, TRL is between, it ranges between 5 to 8. And I will, with the next slide, I think this will become a bit more clear what we mean by that. The funding, the difference with the RIA types of action is that for no-profit entities, if all the costs they have incurred are eligible, they will get 100% reimbursement. In the case of private sector entities instead, the funding will cover 70% of the eligible costs. Even here, the submission works in the same way as for the Research and Innovation Action. So, first stage will require you to submit a short proposal. If you are selected for the second stage, a more detailed proposal. And then to conclude, the coordination and support action. Until now, I believe we just launched one call of this type. And instead of funding directly research activities, it's more about allowing, through the funding, a consortium to implement coordination activities between them or activities which can support the development or research action and strategies. Again, CSAs are not directly funding research, okay? They're more focused, for example, on networking, exchange actions. In this case, we have a funding rate of 100% of the eligible costs, and it is just organized in a way that there is a single stage submission, meaning that you're just submitting once and you're either selected for funding or not. So there is no short proposal and then full application. Now, as I said, this would be the EU technology readiness level table, which kinds of explains for each technology readiness level what we mean. Now, as I said before, normally research and innovation actions have a TRL which reaches, let's say it's between 3 and 5, okay? So we are talking about the earlier stages of technology development. These are projects which normally start at experimental proof of concept stage. So we are still in the technological research phase. And at most time, they reach technology validation in relevant environment. While innovation actions, which are more geared, they're more, let's say, orientated towards the market, normally focused on, on more advanced TRLs. That means they may reach prototype demonstration in operational environment or system completion and qualification. Until now, we haven't funded projects which are at TRL 9. that is basically when you reach product manufacturing. Again, PRIMA is a project which focuses on research and innovation. But again, what it has to be important for you is that apart from identifying the specific TRL from where you are starting when you're writing your proposal and the TRL that you will reach at the end of the project, I mean, even if you're applying for a research and innovation action, if you believe that you can carry out some innovation in your project and you can go behind 5, that's still okay. I mean, this is an indication that we are obviously providing. In the call text, you will find a table which clearly states what type of TRL we are expecting from submitted proposals. But again, if you think that there may be something which may allow you to reach a more advanced TRL, that is still okay. The most important thing to say is that in most cases, there may be different components of your project, which may be at different TRL levels. So that TRL levels. So what is important also, it is to include in your proposal a justification and a thorough explanation of where you are starting from and what TRL you will reach for each of these components. I think we are a bit late, so I don't want to take more time, and I will give the floor to Mohammed for the next part of this presentation. And thanks everyone for the attention.
Okay, thanks a lot, Marco. Okay, from now on, we are gonna to start talking more about how to apply to the PRIMA and what are the different requirements or criteria that you need to respect in order to apply to the PRIMA. So let me start first with reminding you about the first part that Marco presented to you about the different categories or grouping that we have in PRIMA. We have the 4 thematic area, the farming, water, food, and the nexus. We have 2 sections, section 1 and section 2, and we have 3 different types of action, the RIA-E and the CSA. For any topic that you will see on the PRIMA, it is the combination of the 3 of them that you find section 1 topic, okay, on water, and it is RIA, or it is an IA. Or the same for farming, food, and for the nexus. The same for section 2, but so far we have only the RIA for section 2, and we don't have topics for the nexus under section 2. So this is the combination of the 3 categories we have for the thematic areas, the sections, and the types of action. Then the next point is to talk about the admissibility and eligibility. Like this is something maybe admissible, but or related to the administration check, but it's very important to be considered while preparing your proposal, because maybe you wrote a very interesting idea or a very interesting proposal, but due to not respecting all admissibility check or eligibility, maybe you will be declared ineligible or inadmissible, and in this case, the proposal will be automatically eliminated from the evaluation step. So it's very important to consider these steps or these criteria for the admissibility, that your project has to be submitted through the electronic submission system or the ESS before the deadline for sure. It has to be readable, and this is something really important to highlight here, because sometimes we receive some applications with a very tiny, for instance, font. And this is very discouraging the evaluators and assessors and may reflect negatively on the evaluation of your proposal, especially if you know that most of the assessors tend to print out the your proposal and try to work on it like in a paper version and then write down their evaluation. So it's really important to make all your figures and all your text readable and printable. It has to be complete, respecting all obligatory supporting documents, and we are going to highlight this in the next slides. And in the first step, you need to add the exploitation and dissemination plan in details, but just a draft. But on the second stage, you need to include this exploitation and dissemination plan on the action that you are going to submit. As Mark mentioned in the beginning of this presentation, that for stage 1, PRIMA is a 2-stage submission. So in the first stage, you are requested to submit the pre-proposal, which is up to 10 pages. This is the scientific document of your proposal. while in the second stage, you are going to be asked to submit the full application, which is up to 50 pages. This includes the part 2 or the full application or the scientific document of your proposal. Then the second is the eligibility check that's made by the PRIMA Secretariat and the admin team, that all proposal has to respect and comply with the eligibility condition of the H2020, because as Omar mentioned in the beginning that, and also Marco, that we are applying exactly the same rule of the H2020, and I think you are familiar with this regulation, but we are here as well to refresh your ideas about this, because in PRIMA, we have an additional set of criteria or maybe some specifications on the eligibility check. First, the coordinator of your proposal has to be a legal entity established in one of these 19 PRIMA participating states, and its content has to fulfill or correspond wholly or partially to the scope and objectives of the call that or the topic that you are applying for. Because for instance, if we check your proposal and we discover that it is totally out of scope or out of the objectives of this topic, is going to be declared ineligible, and it has to comply with the eligibility condition of the call or the type of action that you are going to apply. And here is the eligibility criteria that you need to respect, that for research innovation action or for innovation action, the minimum number of participants of your consortium has to be at least 3 independent legal entities established in 3 different participating states. One of them at least has to be from EU member states participating in PRIMA, and this is the list of the EU participating states, and at least one of them must be established in a third country participating in PRIMA, like Turkey, for instance. For the CSA, which is not here the case, because as Marco mentioned that we published only once in the life of PRIMA the CSA, and maybe this is not going to be published for the 2021. Some questions or some cases that we used to receive from applicants, and we would like to share it with you. For instance, if you have a Turkish and a Tunisian and a Moroccan consortium, this is not eligible because you don't have any EU member state in your consortium. Or if you have like Greece and Italy and Turkey, this is an eligible consortium because you have at least 1 participant from the north and 1 from the third countries. We used to receive some questions like Netherlands, is it eligible? Or Austria, for instance, it's an EU member state, but it is not one of the participating states. Are they eligible to participate in section 1, for instance, or not? It is yes, but it is under condition that this country has to be above this limitation of the 3 different participating states. So this means that you need first to respect this. You have at least 3 different participating states in your consortium, and then you can add like a Scandinavian country to your consortium for section 1, and they can receive the money. But for instance, if you have Italy and Turkey and Austria, in this case, the consortium is not eligible because you didn't respect the issue or the eligibility criteria of 3 different participating states. This is really very important to consider while preparing your proposal. Analyzing the data of the first 3 calls that we had over 2018, 19, and 2020, that the average size of the consortium is between around 9 or 10 partners and around 5 to 6 countries. So, however, we are saying that's at least 3, but the winning proposal, they tend to have a bigger consortium around, as I said, that at least maybe 10 partners in your consortium or 10 organizations from 5 or 6 countries. So this is something that you need to consider while drafting your proposal and building your consortium. Also, we think that it is important to give you some insight information about how the evaluation process is implementing inside the PRIMA, that once you submit your application, okay, the PRIMA Secretariat, we did the admissibility check and eligibility check. This is for section 1, and for section 2, the National Funding Agency is also doing its own eligibility check, and EDA in session 2 will give you some information about the eligibility check for TÜBİTAK and for Turkey. And then we, as a PRIMA Secretariat, we send your proposal to 3 experts. Each proposal is evaluated by at least 3 independent reviewers. separately, and each one of them will develop the individual evaluation report, or IER. And then we have the panel evaluation meeting, which is a physical meeting, or due to the COVID, we organized it virtually for 2020, that all panel experts, like we are talking about around 15 or 20 experts, we invite all of them over 2 days to discuss together their evaluation and your projects one by one, in order to find out or to come out with the final ranking list, which is the list that will be invited in the first stage, will be invited to the second stage to submit the full application. And then again, you are invited to the second stage, so you prepare your proposal, your full application, and all documents. And then we made again the admissibility check and eligibility check, again expert evaluation, again the final panel evaluation meeting and the final ranking, and then we come out with the final list of projects recommended for funding. We circulate this to the Board of Trustees of PRIMA and to the European Commission for Section 1 and to the national funding agencies for Section 2 for their approval and to secure the fund, and then your project is going to start. And here, the 3 assessors will prepare the one single consolidated evaluation sheet report, which is the one that you used to receive in the first stage or the second stage. Okay, for the first stage, we have 2 evaluation criteria, the excellence and the impact, and till the end of the day, and also tomorrow, we will discuss mainly these evaluation criteria, or these sectors or sections in the full application and in the pre-proposal that you need to consider, some tips and tricks, and the best way to draft your proposal. So for the first stage, you have only 2 sections, the excellence and the impact, and each one of them is scored out of 5, and it has its sub-threshold, which is 4 out of 5. You have to score at least 4 out of 5 under the excellence and 4 out of 5 under the impact, with an overall threshold, it's around 8 out of 10. And for the second stage, we will have 3 sections, the excellence and the impact and the quality and efficiency of the implementation action, with an overall score, it's 15, but the sub-criteria or the sub-threshold for each one of them, it's 3 out of 5 for the excellence, 3 out of 5 under the impact, and 3 out of 5 for the implementation. But the overall threshold, it's 10. So this means that even if you scored like 3 out of 5 in the excellence and 3 out of 5 for the impact, 3 out of 5 for implementation, this means that the sum of this, it is 9 out of 15. This means that you succeed to pass for sure the sub-threshold, but you failed to pass the overall threshold, which is at least 10. Based on the experience that we had over the 3 calls, the average accepted scores or thresholds for the accepted proposals, at least we are talking about above 13 out of 15, because we are talking about a highly competitive call. We received a lot of proposals, very good proposals, and the competition is really high in the PRIMA. You can imagine that the average success rate for Section 1 and Section 2 together, after 3 calls, it's around 7%. So you can imagine how tough the competition on the PRIMA. Just one note here that for innovation action, as Marco presented in his first part, that for innovation action, we are looking for something like commercialized products or final product that can really enter to the market and will have a real impact. That's why during the final evaluation, the panel used to give a higher weight to the impact score. So imagine that you have 2 equal scoring projects, but one of them received a higher impact for, a higher score for the impact. So this means that this project with a higher score in the impact will give like a priority over the other one with the same overall score, but a lower score in the impact. So this is something really important to consider, the impact section for the first stage and for the second stage as well. Then this is the evaluation criteria that you need to consider, and you can already find this all information inside the PRIMA annual work program, as well as on the material that we are gonna to share with you after this meeting. Just briefly, for the excellence, you need to consider, or the assessors will check if the objectives that you are presenting in your project, it's really clear the soundness of the concept and the applied methodology that you are gonna to implement in order to achieve your objectives. It is really credible that your project is really fit to not only the topic of that you are applying for, but also to the PRIMA program. That's why Marco presented to you the PRIMA Strategic Research Innovation Agenda, because this is the bigger umbrella that you need as well to consider while drafting your proposal. To what extent your proposed action is going beyond the state of the art and the innovation potential of your idea. And finally, the interdisciplinary, because this is something really important for research innovation action or for innovation action, that your consortium is not only from academia or from industry, but it is mixed with different specialities, different expertise, complement with each other, and there are a kind of clear synergy between the different consortium members. And then for the impact, the assessors will evaluate to what extent your outputs of the project would contribute to the expected impact as mentioned in the topic that you are applying for. That the scores of your proposal will not depend on the number of expected impact, but it is on the importance of this impact that you are gonna to achieve, and the innovation capacity of your project. And what is also very important, and tomorrow I guess Marco will present to you the meaning and the difference between dissemination and exploitation and the communication. But briefly, this is very important as well to consider in your project, that okay, you will come out with a very interesting final product at the end, how you are going to disseminate this and exploit this to the and manage the intellectual property rights and the research data and the research outcomes of your project, and how you are going to communicate the research outcomes and the activities to the different relevant stakeholders. Finally, the last step, which is the implementation, of the last section, which is the implementation, the assessor will evaluate the quality and effectiveness of the work plan, the resources committed to different work packages, and the deliverables or the outputs of different work packages, the management structure and the risk innovation management. This is also very important, because sometimes you are very good in drafting the scientific part of the proposal, but maybe some applicants they used to ignore or not devote enough time to develop the risks and innovation management plan for their projects. Once again, it's the importance of the complementarity between the partners and the participants, and the appropriateness of the allocation of the tasks, that you have like a consortium of 10 partners, not all task leaders like from 1 or 2 countries or from 1 or 2 partners, but like there is like a fair distribution of the allocation of the task among different participants. Each one of them has the valid role and adequate resources in order to fulfill its role and to achieve at the end the final objective and impact of the project. Then, okay, it's fine. We are ready to apply to PRIMA. So this is the structure of the application procedure in PRIMA, that in the first stage, you are requested to submit 2 parts. Part 1, which is, let me just annotate so you can follow. Okay. So part 1, which is the admin data, which is an online form plus a document that you transfer it to a PDF and upload to the system, as well as part 2, which is the scientific document or the pre-proposal, which is up to 10 pages for the first stage, and also you uploaded it as a PDF. We will do the admin check as I presented before, and then the technical evaluation by 3 independent experts at least for each proposal. And then they will come out with the list of shortlisted projects that is invited to the second stage. Then you will apply to the full application or invited to the second stage. Once again, you have part 1, which is the admin data, which is online form plus a PDF to be uploaded. You have part 2, which is the scientific document or the full application, which is up to 50 pages, again uploaded as a PDF. And the new part for this second stage, which is the budget sheet or the breakdown of your budgets and the chair of each partner. And you submitted it as an Excel file, not as a PDF. This is very important, okay? And then once again, the admin check and then the technical evaluation being accepted. So the PRIMA Secretariat will communicate with you directly for contracting and to sign the grant agreement if it is section 1 with the PRIMA Secretariat and the coordinator. If it is section 2, so each one of you as a partner or coordinator will have a grant agreement with your national funding agencies, and the consortium agreement, which is an internal agreement between the consortium members together in order to clarify how you are gonna to manage your project. Okay, so if you go to the guideline, the general guideline of PRIMA for the first stage, for instance, so you will see that we summarized to you in the beginning of this document, stage 1 submission deadline, which is something really important to consider because the system will automatically shut down at the time and date of the deadline. The documents for the first stage, as I said, that administrative and financial data to be uploaded and filled directly on the electronic submission system. And here you needn't to break it down into the details of the budget, but you just need to put the full cost of your project, like 2 million euro, and the requested amount per partner, like 100,000 euro for partner 1, 200 euro for partner 2, and that's it. You needn't to break it down now at this stage to staff costs, consumables, other costs. No, this is going to be requested on the second stage. Then part 1, which is administrative data, a template that you can download from PRIMA website and then to be uploaded as a PDF on the electronic submission system. And finally, part 2, which is the scientific document, the pre-proposal, 10 pages maximum. If you try to upload like a document part 2 with like 11 pages, the system is smart enough to reject the submission and it will alert you that you exceed the number of pages. So this is something really important to consider, the page limit of first stage and the second stage. One additional point that if you upload all documents before the deadline, there is no button called submit, but all projects are going to be automatically submitted automatically at the time and date of the deadline. So if you upload all your documents like one day before the deadline, you still have the chance to override this documents or to upload an updated version of your administrative data or part 2, the scientific document, till the time and date of the submission. And after that, it's going to be automatically submitted to us. This is just briefly, and we are gonna on session 4 talk about part 1 and part 2 in more details, just to give you that some information about, okay, this is the structure of the part 1 for the pre-proposal. The pre-proposal must be submitted online through the electronic submission system, and the link of the submission is gonna to be activated 1 month before the deadline. So imagine that the deadline for the submission is like 30th of January. So this means that the submission link is gonna to be active on the 1st of January. This is something very important for security reasons, as well as to give more time to the consortia to discuss more and more with their members and participants and to draft better their proposal. The main administrative data will be filled directly on the online, as I said, and then you need to submit this template, which you can download from the PRIMA website, the title of the proposal, the acronym, and the list of partners, the principal investigator's name, the organizations, and then the countries. You can add as many lines as you want, and then you will put abstract of your project and some keywords. And the keywords are very important because the PRIMA team are using your keywords and abstract to assign the most appropriate and relevant assessor to your project. And then briefly here, and then we will discuss it in more details in session 4 about the structure of the part 2 or the pre-proposal, the scientific document, which is, as I said, the excellence and the impact. For the excellence, you have 4 points to address: the objectives of your project, the relation to the code and to the topic that you are applying for, the concept and the applied methodology for your project, and the ambition and beyond the state of the art of your project. And then 2.1 for the impact, which is what are the expected impacts of your project. Again, the page limit for the first stage, it's 10 pages maximum. And then for the second stage, again, it's the same, it's the full proposal. You need to recheck your administrative and financial data on the electronic submission system. That's why here it's mentioned to be checked, okay, because you will already find your data on the system. Then part 1, again, administrative data which is a new template, as it's going to have like a table for the ethical issues, for instance. And then part 2, which is the detailed scientific documents, 50 pages maximum. This is the full proposal to be uploaded to the system as a PDF. And finally, the new part, which is the detailed budget, which is also template that can be downloaded from the PRIMA website and to be uploaded as an Excel file on the electronic submission system. This is very important. You upload the budget as an Excel sheet, not as a PDF. Briefly again, and this is going to be discussed tomorrow during session 5. Once again, you have the excellence and the impact, the same 4 points under the excellence, but here you have more spaces to elaborate more details about your excellence. And then 2.1 and the new part for the impact, which is 2.2, the measures to maximize the impact, dissemination, exploitation of the results of your project, and communication activity that you are gonna to implement in order to approach your stakeholders and the main beneficiaries of your project. The new section for this second stage, which is the implementation, again scored out of 5. 4 points under it: the work plan, work packages, and the list of deliverables of your project, the management structures, the table of milestones of your project and the procedure, the consortium description as a whole, and the resources to be committed. And the resources is not only financial, but can be like you have some very useful and relevant infrastructures and labs, and as well as human resources, which are really relevant to the scope of your project. This is something that's really important to highlight to the assessors. Section 4, which is the members of the consortium. This is like the profile of the participants or partners. And 4.2, which is the third parties. And our colleague Pau tomorrow will present to you the difference between the partner, third party, and the linked third party and subcontract. And finally, the ethics and security in case of your project is raising any point for security or the ethics. Just as a reminder, the page limit is 50 pages, including all sections that I presented from 1 to 5, including all tables, figures, references, CVs, any other elements. We tend to instruct all evaluators not to consider any annexes submitted rather than part 1, part 2, and the budget. Okay, so please do not include any annexes or any additional documents because it's not going to be evaluated. You need to put all scientific data inside the full application for the second stage or inside the pre-proposal part for the first stage. Finally, the call section in the PRIMA website, you can find all these data and all these documents and templates, information about the topics and the guideline for each call, the templates of the first stage and the second stage, link to the submission electronic website. Also, we have a partnering tool that some applicant, they post and offer or look for additional partners. So also you can check this if you wanted to look for some partners, or if you wanted to join some applicants who are really already start drafting their ideas. In addition, you are also invited to register yourself in the expert registration tool, where this is one of the main source for us as a project officers to select the reviewers and experts for the evaluation of the submitted projects. But for sure, for the fairness and transparency of the evaluation, you cannot be an expert and a partner. You cannot be an expert or evaluator and at the same time a partner or a coordinator in a project in the same call. So if you are gonna to apply for section 1 or section 2 for this year, so you cannot be an expert selected for evaluation of the same year during the same cycle, because this is maybe you have or the expert in this case may have some conflict in this case. And this is the last slide, just to give you a quick overview about the reference documents. Here you can forget about the legal mandate of PRIMA, but here you can find the Strategic Research Innovation Agenda, which is our mandate or the referral document for the program. Also here you can find the annual work plan, so you can download the call itself. And also we uploaded here as well the model of the grant agreement for section 1 projects. And here for section 1, you can find the relevant call text for your idea, if it is like relevant more to the water or to the farming or to the nexus. And also you can find the guideline for the applicants, like how to draft your project, and the electronic submission system handbook to guide you how to deal with the electronic submission system. The same as well for section 2, but with an additional document here called, called here the national regulations for 2020 or 2021. Here you can download the most updated and the most relevant regulation that each funding agencies are gonna to apply to its national and corresponding applicants or partners. So it's very important to check this document. And finally, the templates and the form that you need to fill in order to apply to the PRIMA code. I think this is the end of session 1. Okay, so now, Eda, the floor is yours. We will check the chat and the Q&A, and we will text you down in case we can answer it. If not, after Eda, we will answer it verbally. Thank you so much.
Let me just share my screen. Can you see it? Can you see my presentation? Yes. Okay, thank you. Hi, now I will do my presentation about the national rules. As Marco and Mohammed said, even though PRIMA is evaluated, the scientific evaluation is done by PRIMA, there are also some national rules for section 2. And please keep in mind that these rules that I will talk about now are only for section 2. They are not for section 1. This is a mistake that some of our researchers make, so I would like to underline this point. So I will have my slides in Turkish, but I will do the presentation in English. I thought that having the slides in Turkish would be more helpful to Turkish researchers. So let's start with how the applications are made. As you know, the coordinator of the project will make a joint application on behalf of the entire consortium using the PRIMA online application page. However, since the funding to partners from Turkey will be provided by TÜBİTAK, during the first stage applications, partners in Turkey will also need to make a national application to TÜBİTAK at the same time as their international applications are made. And if your proposal is found successful in the first stage, you will be able to make a second stage application to PRIMA. Just like in the first stage, the coordinator will make a joint application on behalf of the consortium to the PRIMA application webpage. However, this time, the partners in Turkey will not need to make a second stage application to TÜBİTAK just yet. The proposal will first be evaluated by the PRIMA independent evaluators. And if the project is found successful and it has been decided that it will be funded, then TÜBİTAK will contact the primary investigators of the successful proposals and ask them to make a national full proposal. So only proposals which are eligible for funding will need to make a second stage application. Yes. The projects are funded within the scope of our 1071 program, which is the support program for increasing capacity to benefit from international research funds and participation in international R&D cooperation. So let's briefly look at who can apply, who is eligible.
Eda, sorry, can you screen?
Make it bigger?
Yes, make it bigger, sorry. Yeah.
Is this good? Yes.
Or you can play it if you...
This is good. Okay, thank you. Okay. So let's briefly look at who's eligible to apply. All public institutions, including municipalities, higher education institutions, training and research hospitals, and private establishments, no matter its size, are eligible to apply. The maximum research support to be given to each project can be 1 million Turkish liras per project. However, this is the maximum threshold. This does not mean that your project will definitely get 1 million Turkish liras. The maximum budget of each project also depends on the number of institutions taking part in the project from Turkey. If there's only one public institution or one university or one research hospital in the project, the maximum budget can be 720,000 Turkish liras. But if there is more than one public institution or a university, or if there is a private institution involved, the maximum budget can be 1 million Turkish liras for the entire project. However, one single institution cannot receive more than 720,000 Turkish liras. Although public institutions, universities, hospitals can be funded for up to 100% of their eligible costs, private institutions cannot. Private institutions, which are large-scale companies, are funded up to 60% of their total requested budget. And small and medium-sized enterprises, or SMEs, are funded up to 75% of the requested budget. This means that the private enterprise will need to cover the remaining costs themselves. For example, if an SME makes a research proposal with a budget of 1 million Turkish liras for the entire project, he can receive 750,000 liras from TÜBİTAK, and he will need to cover the remaining 250,000 liras themselves. So in addition to the research support, TÜBİTAK can also give overheads and project incentive to public institutions. This is the support given by TÜBİTAK in addition to the research grant. So this is not included in the 1 million Turkish liras I just mentioned in the previous slide. The project incentive, or proje teşvik ikramiyesi in Turkish, is considered a sort of compensation for personnel costs, and it is only given to project staff from public institutions. Overheads are also given. It is paid to public institutions again, and it's in return for benefiting from institutions' facilities during the execution of the project. During your national application, we do not ask you to indicate these costs in your budget forms. We will calculate these costs, and we will add it to your contracts in the contracting phase. However, we do prefer that during your international applications to PRIMA that you do write these in your budget forms, considering the highest threshold, which is 144,000 liras for project incentive and 180,000 liras for overheads. So in the previous slide, we talked about who is eligible. So let's talk about who isn't eligible to be the PI. University rectors, vice rectors, chief physicians, deputy chief physicians, hospital managers, general managers, deputy general directors, and provincial director of national education cannot be principal investigators or PIs in projects. However, they can take part in the project as a researcher. And who does the project team consist of? So the project team has to have at least one principal investigator. The PI can take part in the project by himself or herself. So it doesn't actually have to be a team. It can be just one person. But apart from the PI, if you wish, you could include researchers, consultants, temporary staff, which is technicians or workers if you're working in the field, and also scholarship receivers, such as PhD students. They don't have to be PhD students. They can be master's students, or they can be undergraduate students also. The project personnel, they must be registered with TÜBİTAK's Researcher Information System, ARBIS. I'm sure most of you already know the system. You might already be registered. If you're not, it's very easy. You just have to register yourself, and your researchers have to be registered in order to take part in projects. If they are working in public or private organizations, they must have at least 4 years of university degree educations. If the project is to be carried out in public or higher education institutions, the PI must be the permanent staff of the institution. Retired personnel can also take part in the project, but they cannot receive project incentive. Someone whose contribution to the project is below 10% cannot take part in the project as a researcher. And the maximum amount of researchers to take part in the project from one single institution is 10. In order for a consultant to take part in the project must have a subject that requires special expertise, and this must be justified in the project proposal. So you can't just write consultants and not justify it. We have to know, and we have to agree that this project does indeed need to have a consultant. Temporary staff can work full-time or part-time under the supervision of the PI or the researchers in the project. And by temporary staff, we mean like lab technicians or workers, as I mentioned in the previous slide. And what are the other things to consider while writing your proposal? Projects involving routine activities without any R&D content or investment-oriented projects for production or production infrastructure are not supported. This is a very important issue. Please make sure that not only does the project itself have R&D content, but also that that as the project team from Turkey, that you are contributing to the R&D content. For example, if the proposal that you submit to PRIMA, it may have R&D content, but if the only job of the Turkish team is to make a reference book of certain plants or things, you cannot be funded. The Turkish team has to be involved in the R&D content also. You can make more than one application to this call as a PI. In most of our national calls, you cannot make applications as a PI more than once. But in our international calls, we actually encourage you to make as many applications as you can. Machinery, equipment, consultancy, and service procurement expenses indicated in the application must have pro forma invoices. We do not ask this in the first stage, but in the second stage applications, we will ask you to have some invoices for these expenses. So consultancy and service procurement expenses from international project partners are not supported. Sometimes it turns out that your international partners from other countries cannot be funded within PRIMA. So our Turkish researchers or PIs ask us, can we transfer some of our budget to them so they can take part in the project? Unfortunately, we cannot do this. This is something asked very often, but it's impossible. The beginning date of the project in Turkey cannot be before the beginning date of the international project. So how will the application process be if there's more than one institution from Turkey in the project? Even if there's more than one partner from Turkey in the same international project proposal, only one joint application should be made to TÜBİTAK. So we do not want two separate applications, two separate national applications from two different partners. We only want one joint application. If there's more than one partner, one of the partners should be defined as the administrator institution. In Turkish, we call this yönetici kuruluş. And the other one or other ones, if there are more, should be defined as executive institution. And we call this yürütücü kuruluş in Turkish. There's a tab in our online application system where the PI of the administrator institution can add the executive institution. In case there is more than one partner in the same international project from Turkey, the national project application to be made using TÜBİTAK online application system. You have to use the online application system, and as I said, the partner must be defined as the executing agency, and you can find this in our online application system, and if you cannot find it, I will help you. In your PRIMA international proposal, both of these institutions should take part as project partners. They cannot, it cannot be that, for example, one university is the partner and the other universities' researchers are just researchers within that partner. It has to be two separate partners. Otherwise, you cannot make a complete application. And the national project applications can only be used using electronic signatures. We do not accept forms hand-signed and sent to us. You have to use our online system, and you have to sign it using electronic signatures. So if you do not have electronic signatures, you have to apply for them. Regarding the electronic signature process, so as I mentioned, the national application is made online, and we only accept applications with electronic signatures. And so we do not want you to print out the application documents, sign them, and send them to us. So during the first stage applications, in order to make things easier for the applicants, we will only ask for electronic signatures from the PI and the PI's institution. We will not ask for signatures of the other personnel at this stage. During the second stage, we will need electronic signatures from everyone except the scholarship receivers and the temporary staff. So if there is more than one institution, the PIs of all of the institutions, all of the researchers, and all of their institution heads will need to electronically sign it. And by institution heads, I mean rectors or vice rectors or general managers. While finishing your national application, please make sure that you take into account these matters in this slide. Applications are received by electronic signature. All signatures must be complete by the deadline given. The application must be completed within the deadline. Please do not ask for more time. If you do, we might be able to help you, but I cannot promise anything. So please be careful of the deadlines. Please do not miss the deadlines. The applications must be made in accordance with the call conditions. So please read the call text carefully. And because if you make a mistake, since you not only apply nationally, you also apply to PRIMA, this causes a lot of problems because PRIMA will evaluate your proposal regarding the form that you sent them. But if the information you sent them is not correct, or if we cannot fund you according to the information that you have given PRIMA, your project will most likely will not be funded. The application should be filled in detail and all required documents should be attached. Or if we ask you to send them later, please make sure you send them within the allocated deadline. And as I mentioned, an application to PRIMA alone is not enough. Some of our researchers or PIs, they miss this point. Some of them just make an application to PRIMA and they forget about their national application. And this is a big issue. I really don't want anyone to not be funded or not be eligible because of this. So please make sure that you also make a national application. As I said, if you want machinery equipment requests, you must submit some pro forma invoices. As I said, as a national funding body, we do not make a scientific evaluation of your proposal. The scientific evaluation is made by the independent experts in the PRIMA evaluation panels. We will only make an eligibility check in order to make sure that the Turkish partners in the project can be funded by TÜBİTAK. But in order for your project proposal to undergo this scientific evaluation to be made by PRIMA, we as the national funding bodies must inform PRIMA Secretariat that yes, okay, this project is eligible for funding. If the proposal is found ineligible for funding, PRIMA may not evaluate your proposal, or they may evaluate your proposal without you taking part in the project. So in order for your proposal to be found eligible, you must be careful about the things mentioned in this slide. These are the reasons that most of the applications are denied. You must be careful that the project must not be about building infrastructure. As I said before, the project should not be a case study. It should be an R&D project. If you need an ethics committee permission or legal permission or a special permit, these documents should not be missing. You must make a national application in addition to the international PRIMA application. And the proposal must not be very similar to a project which has previously been supported. Sorry. So during your national applications, which forms will you be required to submit? During the first stage application, we don't want to bore you or tire you with such a tiresome, long application process. So we will not ask for an application form in Turkish. We will not ask you to describe your project, the scientific parts of your project in Turkish. You will already submit a pre-proposal form in English to PRIMA's online application webpage. So during the first stage applications, we will only ask you to submit this form to our application system as well. In the PRIMA application, you will be asked to indicate your total requested budget. However, they will not ask for detailed information regarding your budget in the first stage. but this information is not enough for us as national funding bodies. So we will ask you to fill out a simple one-page budget table. It will indicate how much fund you will require for each budget item, for example, for travel, for personnel costs, for scholarships, etc. But we will only ask you to write the total amount for each budget item. We will not ask you details regarding how many travels will there be, for how many years, or how many students will you need. You can just write a total number. And if you are applying as an SME, you will need to submit a declaration that you are an SME. This is a form which can easily be provided. If you need any help, we will help you. For the second stage application, of course, we will need more detailed information. As I mentioned before, the second stage national application will not be made at the same time as the international application. Only after your project has been evaluated and found successful by PRIMA will you be asked to make a second stage application, national application. And during the second stage national application, we will ask you to submit the full proposal form asked by PRIMA in English to our system as well. But we will also require you to fill out a Turkish application form, but this form is not about the scientific content of your proposal. It's mainly for monitoring purposes. So we will ask about information about the staff and about the work packages of your project. It will not have many technical or scientific information at all. We will ask for another more detailed budget form. This time it will be more detailed. So we will need to see how much budget you have requested for each budget item and if these expenses are justified. We need this form in order to know that the money that you have requested is indeed needed for the project. And as I mentioned, we will ask for pro forma invoices for machinery requests. However, if you cannot submit them during the deadline of the second stage, you can also submit them during the contracting process. We are flexible about this. We will also ask for some intellectual property ownership protocol, and as well as a protocol, sorry, pardon me, as well as a protocol signed between the administrator institution and the executive institution if there is more than one Turkish institution in the project. So a protocol between the yönetici kuruluş and yürütücü kuruluş in Turkish. So after this, there is our online application system. I think most of you are already familiar with it, even if you're not. It's very straightforward. I will, at the beginning of each call, we will publish the link to this. And if you enter into it, you will see all of the programs that are open, all of the calls that are open, and you will just need to find PRIMA and enter. It's very straightforward. You will log in using your Arbus account, and once you log in into the PRIMA call, you will see a description of the call and as well as the call rules. You can download the call text document from this page. I don't want to show you all of the steps. I just want to show you how the system looks. As you can see, there are some information, some tabs here which ask for information about your project. So once you enter the system will create a draft application for you. You can exit the system anytime you want. It will save your progress, so you can just enter, write your name and exit, and the next day you can come back and continue where you left off. It's very easy, and after you added yourself, you can add your researchers and your other personnel. So in these tabs, once you press it, you see that there are some questions asked of you. You have to answer each of these questions, and once you answer them, these red X's will turn into green ticks. This means that you have finished that tab. I don't want to show you all of the tabs for time constraints. I will just show you this one. In this tab, it says attachments, ek dosyalar. So after you have given the necessary information requested in the previous tabs, you can come to this tab and you can attach the forms I mentioned in the previous slide, such as the PRIMA proposal form or the budget form. If you need to attach some other documents, such as the ethics committee permission form, you can attach it here. Afterwards, to finalize your proposal, in order to finish the proposal process, you must approve your application. Please don't forget this step. Sometimes researchers forget and we have to open the system again so that they can approve it. Please approve your application before the deadline, and after you have approved your application, it will go on to the signature process, the electronic signature process, and you will be done with the application. This is all from me. If you have any questions, you can call me or email me anytime. I will be happy to help you. I hope that we will have many successful proposals this year. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you a lot, Eda. Now Marco will present session 3, then we will have a short break just to refresh our mind, and then we will come back. So Marco, the floor is yours.
Okay, so I hope you can hear me loud and clear. I guess so, because I see the microphone icon is becoming green. Well, just a couple of points of reflection before we move on with this presentation. So I think by this time, probably all of the listeners have understood how important it is the preparation of the proposal, not just the content, but also understanding well the rules for the submission, the eligibility and admissibility rules that both PRIMA and TÜBİTAK at national level establish. So please take some time to focus on these aspects. And I wanted to reply to to a question that someone posted in the Q&A. That it's actually a very interesting question, because if I remember correctly, the question was if PRIMA is focused on when we were talking about innovation action projects which are more let's say orientated to the market. We talked about product and services, but innovation, as we know, is multifaceted, kind of, and there can be also social innovation. And the question was about it. Is PRIMA looking at only product innovation, or maybe projects which have to some degree some social innovation in them? Well, the answer is yes. We look at innovation at 360 degrees, and this is something that you may encounter explicitly mentioned in the call, okay? But it's also something that if you have a project idea which is within the scope of the call and social innovation is not explicitly mentioned, for sure you still can have this in your project. So it's very interesting as a question, and we want to have an interaction of different types of participants in the project from different backgrounds, and we look also at the three levels of the impact: economic, social, and environmental. So for sure we are not looking only at technologies for because then at a point they will be commercialized, but also at social innovation, as our participant raised this point. So I hope that answers the questions. Okay, I will start with this presentation. I will try to be brief because I know we are lagging a bit behind. This presentation is entitled Main Characteristics of a Winning Proposal, Tips and Tricks. And what we are going to do with this presentation, we are trying to introduce you to a few concepts that then we are going to refine, and we are going to go a bit more in detail when Mohammed today and myself tomorrow will explain the different sections of the proposals. This is a first general advice that we are sharing with you, and then you will see that some points that I'm going to touch upon during this presentation are going to be reflected in the proposal template, in the proposal structure that we are going to explain for the first stage submission and for the second stage submission. Okay, without further ado, I will go with the first slide. I know that most of you are used to, the project management terminology, and most of you probably have participated in national or international projects, but still we have to we have to start with the very basic, the founding block, the foundations of project management. And in this slide, we tried to recapitulate what we can consider a research project. This is a widely accepted international definition of a research project that it's maybe useful to remind you of. So we need to identify a research project as a series of activities, okay, aimed at achieving some specific objectives and results. We can also speak of deliverables, outcomes, impacts, and so on, within a defined time period, okay, using a defined budget and resources. That can be also, let's say, intellectual resources, human resources. So this is the definition which really captures the what a research project is. You need objectives, you need to define if your project will last 3 years, 3 years and a half, or so on. You need to define a budget, and you need to define how much people you need for the implementation of the project and how you are going to assign the work to them. Okay, you can see that in brackets you have some acronyms like PERT, LFM, Gantt chart. We're going to have a specific session for this. Mohammed is going to focus on this to explain how you can use these acronyms. Are actually project management tools. Some of you may know them, some of you maybe they're hearing these acronyms for the first time, but what they are is basically project management tool that are going to help you structure your project in terms of how you break down the work, the project activities, what is the interrelation between the work, the results that you want to achieve, and the outcomes of the project, and obviously a representation of these activities, a breakdown of these activities and objectives within the time period that you chose for your project. So we're going to have a specific session on it, and a specific session as well on the budgetary aspects, okay? Now, problem is an important word in project management, in the project management world, and also in our PRIMA program, because we are looking at research projects as a means to solve problems. So in your research proposal, what is to be very clearly stated is what are the problems and issues that that you want to solve or contribute to solving, and the possible opportunities, benefits that can be achieved through the implementation of your projects, okay? Another very important pillar of your project is the stakeholders. Stakeholders is a word which means someone who holds a stake, someone who holds an interest in the results of your project. And you will be able to identify different stakeholders, okay? That may benefit from what you do with your research project. There is a lot of terminology that we can use in this sense, because we could also speak of target groups, users, and maybe we can discuss this at a later stage. But in general terms, what these expressions refer to is people or sectors that can have a benefit from the work that you're carrying out, okay? And then we're going to divide them in different categories. Coordination, management, and reporting arrangements. We're talking about the technical and financial aspects. These are maybe a bit the boring part of it, but obviously you have to have a good organization in place to make sure that the project doesn't lag behind, that at a point you realize that the objectives are not being achieved. So these are dimensions that also when you submit your proposal, you have to think of them, and you have to demonstrate that you have a coordination, management, and organizational structure in place that will allow the project to be implemented flawlessly. And there are specific parts of the PRIMA templates where you have to include this information on the management, coordination, and organization. What is important is obviously also the expected results, the monitoring structures in place, which is linked with the organization of the project, how you think you will be monitoring the implementation of the activities, and how you're going to see if you're achieving your target, and the sustainability, because a project idea which includes some mechanisms to guarantee that even after the end of the project, there are ways for the project to go on, to be sustained, for sure have higher chances of being selected. And the sustainability dimension holds a special value in the heart of the evaluators, because they normally appreciate a lot these kind of projects that have, they live even beyond the 3 years that normally a proposal lasts. So some first points, we could say some food for thought for you to make sure that even when you have prepared your proposal, you make sure that these points are very well addressed. Now, the project idea is everything. What do we mean by that? We mean that the project idea could be, first off, it has to be a good one, but what is even maybe not more important, but equally important to the fact that the idea is good, is a good presentation. Sometimes research proposals have a lot of potential, but they are not really presented well. And we are going to have to give you some advice to make sure that even when you are, for example, writing the abstract or preparing a project brief that you can circulate to some potential project partners, you present the proposal in a way which immediately captures the attention of the reader. Okay, so this is a very important dimension as well. You have to, every year PRIMA receives hundreds of applications. Okay, our evaluators have a big workload. They have to read a lot of proposals, and a very very important way to do when you're preparing your proposal is to write it in a comprehensive way. So you have to try and squeeze all the aspects that you think are important in your proposal, but in a way that is simple and coherent. So if you avoid repetitions, complex sentences, complicated words, acronyms and abbreviations which are not explained, you are facilitating the work of the evaluator. You are helping the evaluator reach an understanding of your proposal in an easier way, and for sure you are getting the message across in an easier way. So simplicity and avoiding anything that is complex is for sure something that can give you your proposal a good advantage. And you should imagine that you should think this way. My proposal for sure will be read by some independent expert evaluators, but when you draft it, you should think that it should be also understandable by a non-specialist. So really, simplicity is the key. You should try to do this exercise. Okay, if my proposal was read by an evaluator who is not 100% familiar with the expertise, I mean the specific sector that we are tackling with this proposal, what would be the result? Would it be understandable to him, or maybe someone who is approaching this sector for the first time? So please try to be simple and try to be clear in how you state the problems, you tackle the proposal, and so on. Now, your idea could be brilliant, but maybe could not be aligned to the specific challenges, issues that we as PRIMA want to tackle with a specific call for proposal. So it's very important that you make sure that your idea, your project is relevant to what we are trying to achieve with the specific call, and also with the objectives of PRIMA as a program. That's why it's very important. Check the strategic research and innovation agenda. Try to make sure, try to understand there is an evident link between your project and the priorities under each thematic area. Highlight them, and also make sure that when you read the call text, you can really capture the main message in the call for proposals, and try really to understand what PRIMA is seeking to fund in terms of research projects. Also here, we are going to explain later some tips, Mohammed is going to do this, how to read between the lines, how to really understand what are the key messages in a call for proposals in the text that we publish, to make sure that your idea is really relevant to such keywords, to the aspects that we want to tackle. For sure, the presentation of the idea is important. Make sure that when you use the templates and you insert the content in the different sections of the templates, you're really addressing the information that is required, the evaluation criteria of PRIMA, and you're not deviating from them, because this will make your proposal either inadmissible if you, for example, change the templates or leave a specific section empty. Or still, even in the case your proposal is admitted, the evaluator most likely will not be able to find the information presented in a useful way, or in a way that allows a clear assessment of the proposal. So some aspects that may look secondary, but they're not at all, because we know also that sometimes scientists get very excited about packing the proposal to make their idea shine, but they forget about the most basic things. And these are among the most basic things, but they are very, very important. Okay, another slide which I think is quite interesting. So this is the typical proposal reading and evaluation sequence. So what happens when an evaluator receives the proposal? You can see some bullet points here, okay? And these bullet points are a simplified version of what is behind a proposal, okay? So the first thing the evaluator will see is the cover page, which is like your business card, is how you introduce yourself and your idea, yourself as a consortium, so coordinator and partners, and the main idea, okay, to the evaluator. So for sure, when you give a business card and you smile to the other person, you want to make a good impression. And this is exactly what happens when an evaluator receives a proposal. He will read the cover page, he will see the first thing, he will see the consortium, and that is already important. He will read the abstract. The abstract is not evaluated because there is no evaluation criterion for the abstract. It's just a summary of the project. But for sure, it's a very important step in the evaluation, okay? Because it captures the vision that there is behind your project. Then, when the evaluator proceeds to reading the whole application, the whole proposal, he will find the following information: the introduction and objective and the problem statement, which normally are included in the excellence part of it. Then you have the impact, including the sustainability of the project. And this is the second part of the template. You will see there is a specific section for the impact. Then there is the research plans that explains in detail the methodology, the activities that are going to be implemented, the work packages and the deliverables that you will submit, okay? This is normally what we call the implementation part of the proposal. And then as a separate document, there is the budget table that is also evaluated. So don't think that the evaluation is just about the science, the impact, and the work plan. Also, the budget is part of the proposal. So especially at the second stage, this one will be evaluated. Okay, now this is how the evaluator will look at things, but how does the typical proposal writing sequence work, which is what you have to be also doing concretely. The abstract, that is the first thing that the evaluator reads, is actually the last thing you will produce, because it will be a summary of a series of ideas, of a series of sections of your proposal that you will draft and develop before you get to the actual writing of the abstract. So the first thing, as we said, is the identification of the problem or the need that you are tackling with your proposal. The relevance is very important, okay? So again, this you can do it by checking if the problem or need, the project idea that you have, is aligned and relevant to the PRIMA call and the program vision. Then you have to start detailing what are the specific objectives of the call, of your research proposal. You can, in actual facts, you can define the overall objectives of the proposal that may be wider, like for example, contributing to the, to boosting innovation, let's say, to boosting innovation in the agro-food value chains through digitalization. That can be a broader objectives you are going to contribute to through your proposal. But then you need also to develop the specific ones, which go more in detail. And you can also use bullet points, for example, when you're drafting the proposal to highlight these. Then it comes to the research plan. So after you have the main idea, that is the problem, its relevance to the call and the objectives, you get to the research plan. So you start thinking how you and your partners can divide the work and implement it, and who is going to do what, which is what we call the activities, the work activities or work packages. A work package is a subdivision, we could say, of the whole amount of work that you have, okay? That can be, for example, the management aspects of the proposal, the communication, a pilot site, the work involved in a pilot site, and so on. So you have to divide the work into the so-called work packages. And then you develop the budget with your partners. This is a continuous cycle because you may be starting with the problem, okay? Then you proceed with the identification of the relevance to the call and so on. But at a point, you may come back to change something, or you may realize that there is another problem that you can take within your proposal and you can address it successfully. So only when you have, let's say, all the bullet points that you see here, all the aspects that you have here, quite clear in your mind, in the mind of your partners, you have you go to the abstract part and you try to summarize your proposal in a 1 to 2 page long document. So some other tips which are really important, even if in a big number of proposals that we receive, they are overlooked. The title and the acronym, which summarizes the title, are part of that business card I was talking about before. It's like when you tell the person that you're meeting for the first time, you're introducing yourself, and obviously you say what your name is. And even here, sometimes this can strike the attention of the evaluator. So it should be a catchy title, and the acronym should not be over long. Okay. I'm going to elaborate on this later. First, maybe I can just recapitulate here these requirements for a good proposal, and then I go in detail for each of them. You have to have a good and comprehensive abstract. You have to have clear goals that are clearly stated, and as much novel. The idea should be behind the project should be as much novel as possible, as much innovative as possible, because this is something that is like the foundations of the PRIMA program. So the ideas and solutions that we want to promote are novel, are innovative in the region. And also this is important for your proposal to be good. Objectives, results, and deliverables should be SMART. And I'm going to explain what this means. Make sure the methodology is clear, because if it's vague or not really explained in a clear way, this is going to confuse the evaluator. And try to have like a defined action plan, research plan, and budget. Think a lot about how the work should be structured and how the resources should be structured. Now, starting from the title and the acronym that I already started talking about before, you should use the keywords from the call itself. Okay, so if you manage to create a project title that by using the keywords taken from the call summarizes the main idea, the main problem or need that you have to tackle, and the objective of your project, for sure you will have come up with a very successful, attractive title. Okay. As much short as possible, please. 1 sentence, maybe 10 words are sufficient, because sometimes we receive overlong proposals with overlong titles that are even difficult to pronounce. So you can imagine also how the evaluator will, when he or she will receive the proposal, it will get complicated, the whole process, since the very beginning when the evaluator reads the title. Now, this is actually the title and acronym, something that normally is done at the end of the proposal writing process, because when you really have clear in your head and in the head of the partners the identity of the project, then is the moment where you can brainstorm between you, and then you can identify the keywords and puzzle them. Okay. And it's actually the most fun part of the work, because after a lot of work and effort, intellectual effort, I mean, it's the most fun part when you have to decide the name of the project. So the acronym, easy to pronounce, easy to remember for the evaluator, and please avoid jargon, because the title should not be, a thesis. It should be just a title. So only focus on the idea, the problem, and the objective, all of them well packed in a single sentence. And here we have some examples. We can look at the first one that I really like. There was a project which some of you may know, which is called MedSpring. And basically what they do, they're just using Mediterranean science, policy, research, and innovation gateway, that is 6 words, to really pack the vision behind the project in 1 sentence. Okay, it's a med-focused project. In fact, we have Mediterranean in the title, and then they took the initial letter of each word to create the word spring, which stands for science, policy, research, innovation, gateway. So I think this is a brilliant example of how a consortium can be creative and come up with an attractive title and acronym that really reveals the identity of the project. Okay, the abstract, again, it's not scored. You don't get a 0 out of 10 if the abstract is written badly, but you don't care about the score. It's not, we're not in the evaluation, but you care about making a good impression. Normally, on average, since the abstracts are about 1 page long, an evaluator reads it in 1-2 minutes, and that's it. So focused, it has to be focused, it has to be brief, it has to be well written. So problem statement, objectives of the project, why they are important, and you may also think of the overall goal, overall objective behind the project, that again is not really the specific one, but is a goal, for example, that it's the overall goal of the program. So if your project is, for example, focused on water management, for sure you will be aligning with the overall goal of PRIMA of contributing to achieving sustainable integrated water management in the Mediterranean that we have chosen as for that thematic area as an overall goal. The specific goal or specific objective of the application, you can have several, and it's a distinct thing from the overall goal. So we get to this point with this slide. You have to have also specific objectives which are tailored after your project idea. They should be brief, focused, and limited in scope. Okay, you can use bullet points to present them. You can, for example, many projects include OB1, OB2, Objective 1, Objective 2, to obviously state clearly what the specific objectives are. They should be realistic. Okay. The more you overestimate the capacity, the budget that you have, and the time that you have, obviously, the more the evaluator will think that your project is not realistically achievable. So instead, be focused, be brief, be limited in scope, but make sure that you make it really evident for the evaluator how you will achieve the project objectives, and also generate an impact. And also we encourage you to use the indicators and the targets in your proposal, because, for example, KPI, key performance indicators, provide the evaluator with the knowledge of the fact that the consortium, not only they are saying that they will have, for example, 5 specific objectives and they're going to achieve them, but they also have indicators to track the progress and to monitor the achievement of such objectives. So we encourage you, really, this is very important, that you include indicators and targets. Now, we said that a project proposal should have SMART objectives and SMART goals. What's the meaning of the acronym SMART? You have to be specific, as I said, limited in scope, and not some specific objectives that are relevant, I mean, for everyone, but they should be relevant for PRIMA, for the call and for the program. They should be measurable, again, monitored. You have to provide indicators and targets for verification of progress. They have to be realistic and achievable. Okay, that's the A into SMART, achievable. Think of the time that you have, the expertise that you have in the consortium, the human resources that you have, and think if with these resources you can achieve the objectives that you have. Realistic, I mean, dreaming, everybody likes it, but we are investing public money, so we have to be sure that these projects are realistic and time bound. Think of the time dimension, because we don't, it's very, we don't really like to find ourselves in a situation where we have to extend projects. So you should, you sign an agreement with us, PRIMA, or with the national funding agencies to deliver some results, for example, in 3 years. So you should stick to that duration of the project, okay? So a clear, coherent, logical outline of the project, alignment with the project call is important, between the project and the call is important. Another important aspect is the consortium itself, okay? And we're going to have a session on the consortium building later on. A strong coordinator, someone with a good track record, is for sure important, but you have to make sure that also the partners in the consortium can provide an added value, and that there is a complementarity between them in terms of expertise and maybe the background and the country they come from. The budget, again, is one of the items that you should look at. So to make the project realistic, you have to think of the resources you have, and the budgetary resources are one of these resources important for the implementation of the project. If you can avoid the ethical issues, and when this is not possible, indicate in your proposal how you're going to address such ethical issues. PRIMA focuses on sectors which are normally not really, I mean, in the projects that we receive, normally there are not a lot of ethical issues arising, but it's good for you to know. for example, when you're handling the transfer of data sets that can be confidential, or there must be some rules concerned. It's also good to indicate, for example, some kind of measures to take care of these aspects. And again, try to be innovative when you frame your project, when it comes to the main idea, the methodology, the management, all the aspects that you have in the project, as much innovative, as much novel as possible, to try and mark a line between your application and the one of the other competitors. For making sure that the project and the call are aligned, okay? And another tip that I want to share with you, the evaluation of the evaluators start with this very sentence: the project is in line with the objectives of the call, or the project is out of scope. This is really the call, the alignment with the call is very important. So study very well the project, the guidelines and the call text. Try to identify the keywords. And again, later Mohammed is going to give you some very interesting feedback on how to do it. Brainstorming is crucial. You should have a very intense brainstorming and discussions with your partner to collect also their ideas, because if you're a multidisciplinary consortium, everyone can really bring some added value, some different perspectives, and things may work differently in different countries, because these are transnational projects. So it's very good when you're at proposal, when you're first identifying the core idea and then drafting the actual proposal. It's very good to have a brainstorming exercise with your partners to collect idea, see things from a different perspective, see if you are aligned among yourselves in terms of what is the vision behind the project. Okay, when you do this exercise, this is going to feed into something, which is an initial project brief, that then will lead to a concept note, okay, to a first draft of the application. And obviously, it's also good not only to discuss with your partners if you have already found them, okay, but if you are, like, if you that are listening to this session, you already have an idea, you can already start this exercise, and then you will look for partners to share it with them, or with colleagues from your own institution to get a feedback from them. So always start looking at who is near you, who you know that can give you some good ideas, some good feedback. So look internally at your institution, look for external partners, and it's always good to have feedback on your project idea, not only from those people who are going to be your project partners, but also external experts. So as much as possible, look for feedback, because the way you are looking at things and the way you are framing your project, it could be okay, but there must be something that could be either some issues that you're not seeing, and also some potentialities that you are not currently aware of. So please look for feedback. Again, the coordinator, having a strong experienced coordinator is very important, but even the consortium is key. The more we see in the proposal that you're putting together what we call the quadruple or quintuple helix, that you have different partners from different backgrounds, academia, industry, that can be either SMEs. SMEs, it's very good to have them. They're really pushing innovation. So it's good to have SMEs in your project, but also from the private sector, NGOs, civil society organizations, public authorities when it comes to the public sector. That can mean also ministries, agencies, environmental agencies, research agencies that can benefit from the results of your project. I mean, having all of this combustion of different partners, it's for sure a good advantage, because everyone can bring in something different to the project, okay? And sometimes when stakeholders or lead users are not part of the project, it's still good to have some memorandum of understandings or some agreement from the very beginning of the project, so that you can be in touch with them and, for example, validate the results of your project. Having partners with experience is good, with a strong track records, but of course, this doesn't mean that if you've never participated in a project, or if you in your consortium you have partners which do not have experience, this doesn't mean that they cannot give a good contribution. So even balancing things out when you have when you're building your consortium is a good thing. Geographical coverage is important. We're a Mediterranean program. We like to have a balanced participation from Europe and from non-European countries. What we are very interested in is transferable solutions that, for example, can work in different countries, okay? Because again, we face problems which are shared by our region, by the European countries, by Turkey, and by the other non-European countries. So the geographical coverage is not about having, 3 partners from Europe and 3 partners from North Africa and from the Middle East. It is about having these partners in the project, because the work that you're doing will benefit all of them, that you're developing technology or approaches, solutions, or innovations that can be transferred and adapted to all the countries. So as much as possible, try to demonstrate that you are working for the region, that what you're doing is work which will benefit more countries, and this is for sure making the evaluator excited about your proposal. Now, if you're looking for partners, I don't want to go that much in detail now, because we are going to have a separate session on this. So I would rather move to the other slide, which is why do we fail? The most common reason for failure. Most of the time, we receive projects that are submitted because they are looking for funding, but the project idea is not novel, it's been already implemented, it's weak, or else it cannot be applied really on the ground. So these projects normally get very low scores. It has low relevance, so it's not aligned with the call objectives or the wider program objectives. The consortium is weak, there is some lack of expertise, or the partners, maybe they're too much similar in terms of expertise, so there is an overlapping. But the consortium is not well put together. The lack of expertise can be either technical or management, or the resources are not really well thought of. When there is a lot of blathering, a lot of blah, blah, blah, but the approach, the methodology and the objectives are vague, not clearly explained, or for example, the different components of the work activities are not well linked together, there is no demonstration of the interrelation between the different work done by the different partner, this makes a proposal fail for sure. Unrealistic proposals, amount of work, objectives that are not realistic, clear indicators that are not included in the proposal. This is also a reason for failure, and there is no clear impact demonstrated in the proposal. Okay, the rest I think I already tackled before. Language is important as well, how you in the presentation of the proposal. We are not evaluating how well you write in English, but some proofreading, some editing of the proposal, it's always recommended to make sure that it's written in a good English. Just to recapitulate before I conclude, the title simple and catchy. Proposal should be very focused on objective, impact, goals, and so on, not a general background, unfocused. You try to be concise and clear when you demonstrate the relevance of the project to the call and program priorities, how the work plan will be addressed, what are the people or sectors that are going to be benefiting from the project, what results the project will be delivering, and also present, obviously, the different partners in a good way. So before I conclude, make sure that you register in the platform, not at the very last minute, because sometimes, as Eda said as well, the work, the project idea could be good, but for example, you fail to submit it on time. Also make sure that your partner's contact details, you always have them up to date, so that it doesn't take much time to communicate with them, and this doesn't have an influence on the proposal writing process. Prepare a checklist table of things that you have to do. Administrative steps, research project development step in terms of project idea, project brief, circulate it to partners, and so on. Make sure you read all the guidelines in time, and you check the admissibility and eligibility details. Provide only the information that are needed in the templates that will take less time for you and for us to evaluate the proposal. And also check, please, the PRIMA website regularly. In this case, because we're going to publish in February the new calls, but also because there could be some updates. For example, last year, the outbreak of the COVID So immediately we published some updates on the website. We postponed the call. So please, this is the key moment, key period when you have to check every week if there are updates on our website. And with this, I would like to conclude. Thank everyone for the attention. And I think now we're going to have a break, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, thanks a lot, Marco. I think it was a heavy meal during this afternoon, so I think you deserve to get like a maximum 15 minutes break. You can keep the link open. We will still be here. We just paused the recording now. And I think we have answered all questions and under this topic and the scope of this topic and the expected impact. And the next slide, we will discuss together how to analyze or how to read these sections in order to understand this topic that I'm gonna to apply for. Also, we developed an electronic submission system handbook that it will guide you as a partner or as a coordinator, how to build a consortium, how to complete your application, how to fill the financial data, also how to fill the part 1 or the administrative data on the system, and how to upload the part 1 and 2 and the budget sheet in case of you are the coordinator of this proposal. And the submission, as I said, that it is at the time of the deadline. There is no button called submission, but at the time of the deadline, the system will close and automatically will submit all documents and all proposals already registered and uploaded there. So it is really important before the deadline to make sure that you uploaded all required document or obligatory documents. And this is the most updated version of your proposal to make sure that we are evaluating that this is the correct and the final version. We are not accepting under any circumstances any proposal delivered to us by email or by any means, but just through this electronic submission system or the ESS. And then if you are applying through section 2, so it's also important to check this national regulations for this year. You needn't to go through all national funding agencies, but if you are the coordinator, so you just need to check the funding agencies regulations of the partners of the countries of your partners. And if you are a partner, so it's really important to check your national regulations. And we strongly recommend to all applicants to communicate with your national funding agencies in case if you have any questions or any doubts. It is better before applying to the call to double check first with your national contact point or with the PRIMA Secretariat. And if it is relevant to section 2, so we will direct you directly to the relevant NCP. And finally, which are the templates that for all documents that I was referring to in the first session, that we published all templates, like for instance, part 1, which is the admin data for stage 1 and also for stage 2. Part 2, which is the scientific document for the technical and scientific details. One for stage 1, which is the up to 10 pages, and the other one for stage 2, which is up to 50 pages. And finally, the detailed budget sheet, Excel sheet for stage 2 only. We have a budget sheet for section 1 and a different budget sheet for section 2. For all other documents and templates, it is exactly the same for section 1 and section 2, except the budget sheet, because the budget sheet, you have one specific for section 1 if you are applying for section 1, and another template for section 2 if your project is addressing one of the topic of section 2. So this is really very important to consider. And to avoid any confusion during the different stages, so we used not to publish on the PRIMA website any document or any template, but the one related to this section or sorry, this stage. So for instance, in stage 1, you will find only documents or the templates related to stage 1. And on the second stage, we erase the documents and the templates of stage 1, and we publish instead documents and templates of stage 2. So now going to more technical data or technical practices on how to analyze or to read the PRIMA topic. This is very important, and I used for each training and for each workshop to share with the attendees that one of my first practices or lessons that I learned in 2007 when we applied to FB7 at that time, that we prepared the full documents and we submitted it, and we received a very, very low score because of we were out of scope, because we didn't read the documents, we didn't read the topic that we are submitting for carefully. So it's really very important to understand and to practice how to read and to analyze the topic, how to find out the most important keywords or the scope of the topics, and then how to design or develop our project in order to fulfill and to fit to this topic. So here we will give you two practices or two examples, one for the agri-food and another one for the farming for the 2019, just as an example to you. So this is the classic and the standard title of any topic of PRIMA. It starts with, okay, innovation action or EA, topic 1.3.1, implementation of analytical tools and digital technology to achieve traceability, authenticity, control of traditional Mediterranean food. This is the typical and the standard topic title for any PRIMA. Now we will try to break it down in order, even from the title, to understand what we are applying for. Okay, when I say that it is an innovation action, so this means that, as Marco presented on the session for the first session, that so this means that the PRIMA is looking for a high TRL because it is an innovation action. So we are talking about TRL above 5. So this for sure would reflect as well on the engagement of the stakeholders and the private sector. And in the next slides, we will talk about the differences between the stakeholders and the partners. But when we see that it is an innovation action, higher TRL, so we are talking about the final products, commercialized products that need to enter or ready to enter to the market. So maybe this is an essentiality to include like private sector in my consortium, because at the end, we will not end up with some publications, but we will develop a final product at the end. So maybe I need to include like a factory or a manufacturer who is working in this specific area. Topic 1.3.1, this is a standard number for us. The first digit is always this section. So this means that it is section 1. 3 means it is for agri-food, because this is the order of our thematic area. Water is the 1, then farming, then agri-food, then 4th is the nexus, and the last digit, it stands for the topic number. So this means that 1.3.1 stands for, it's section 1, agri-food, and it is topic 1, or the first topic for agri-food under section 1, okay? And then when I read here, analytical tool and digital technology, so this is maybe the applied solution that the PRIMA is looking for to achieve or to develop through these projects. To achieve traceability and authenticity control, this is the scope or the specific objective of this topic of the agri-food. And traditional Mediterranean food, this is very important that you need in your project to be specific and selective, not to be diffused. For instance, when I say, okay, I'm gonna to address one of the non-Mediterranean food, for instance, whatever, like hamburger, for instance. So maybe this is a very interesting topic, but maybe not 100% fitting to the scope of this topic. So it's really very important to consider this to be specific, not to be also diffused, mean that not to be so generic or too open. You have to be specific, like, are you gonna to address traceability for honey or for fish or for vegetables and so on. This is very important because you will not for sure develop one solution that can fulfill all requirements for all traditional Mediterranean foods and products in the market. Just a question for you, just because, just to practice together that when you have like a topic with number 2.2.2, so this means that it is topic 2 of farming under section 2, and 1.4.1, this means that it is topic 1 for the nexus and under section 1. This is just to give you an example, another example. And then the second step, okay, we will read the challenges that the PRIMA, for each call, we used to develop the challenges. What are the problems in this sector in the Mediterranean countries that we want you as applicants to address this through your projects? So here I'm highlighting in bold the most important part of this challenges. That's why you need to practice to analyze and to find like the hidden messages inside the call text. So for instance, they highlight, or I highlight here the Mediterranean traditional food. This is maybe the scope that we need to address in our project, valorizing Mediterranean animal breeds and plant varieties, because maybe have like something like related to some plants like or vegetables or fruits. So I'm eligible in this case because here on the PRIMA they mentioned here plant varieties, so it's not only animal but also plant is also covered. Natural bioactive compounds, and here in red I highlighted maybe the most relevant or the most important part, which is they require, or this plant varieties and animal breeds, they need traceability and characterizations based on state-of-the-art methods and technologies. Maybe this is the applied solution that the PRIMA is looking for. And then the rest of the text. Then creation of a reference database. Maybe this is also one of the deliverables that the PRIMA is looking for. Harmonization of different analytical tools. So maybe as well interoperability between different analytical methods. This is also some of the aspects that I need to consider in my project. Validation among different laboratories, how to be able to interact and exchange data together. So this is the way to understand or to read the call text and the challenges. And then the second part of any topic, which is the scope, that here the proposal should focus on developing and implementing innovative solutions, technological tools, digital solutions and protocols in order to achieve traceability and confirm authenticity of Mediterranean food products, excluding olive oil. This is very important because sometimes you are 100% fitting to the scope of the project, but you are gonna to address like some solutions for the olive oil production, for instance. So in this case, you waste your time, you waste your resources, and you used your network, you applied, but unfortunately it's gonna to be declared ineligible because it is out of the scope of the call. Because here, the PRIMA, they excluded the olive oil from the scope of this topic. So it is very important to read carefully the call text for each part. And here I'm referring to one very useful sources for all of you, that every year the PRIMA organizing a virtual or a physical and virtual for sure Info Day. And during Info Day, each one of us as a project officer, we used to present our specific topic. This is very good source for all of you because no one better than the project officer can translate what we wrote in the call text in like a bullet forms or the most important and most relevant point that you need to consider. And if you go to the PRIMA website regularly, we are going to organize for 2021, we are going to organize an Info Day. We used to record this Info Day and publish it on the YouTube channel as well as on the PRIMA website. So this is a very important source of information for all of you to make sure that you as an applicant, you correctly understand the scope and what the PRIMA is looking for, and also to double check that you didn't miss any important information that is PRIMA are looking for. That's why here on the scope, for instance, here I developed this like more than a year ago or 2 years ago for the 2019 for the development and implementation of analytical tools and technologies to achieve traceability and confirm authentication, to provide a robust certification and control bodies as well, building the capacities of key enabling technologies, optimizing the use of pre-existing databases and network. This is from my presentation, and also in the next slides, I'm going to share with you what our colleague Fabrice, who is responsible for the farming, is preparing during the Info Day. So you can see that we translated the full text into a set of a few bullets or few points, highlighting the importance of some points related. And then finally, the expected impact that the proposal should contribute to implement priorities set by PRIMA SRIA And here I'm referring to what Marco mentioned during this session 1, that it's not only applying to the PRIMA topic, but also you are also respecting or considering the PRIMA strategic research and innovation agenda and the key KPIs mentioned on this SRIA. So here is the project expected impact: development efficient methods for assessing food traceability and safety, increase the added value of Mediterranean food product, improve confidence of the consumers and markets. Maybe this would trigger in my mind as an applicant, okay, maybe I need to have like a sort of certification of my products, for instance, or maybe I need to include the consumers service agencies or authorities, maybe in my consortium. Foster joint integrative activities and improve harmonization and data interoperability. This is once again the summary of the impact of this topic. Another example for section 1 topic under the farming, sustainability and competitiveness of the greenhouses and intensive horticulture. Here I'm putting to you the challenges and the scopes and the expected impact as written by the project officer. So you can see that we transform the full text into key points. Then now going to the second step, okay, I have checked all documents, I'm fitting with a specific topic. We start now applying or preparing ourselves and our documents and the consortium with the consortium members in order to apply. So we will start with part 1, which is the administrative data for the pre-proposal and the full application, because it is almost the same, but it is 2 different templates. So for instance, for the first stage, which is the pre-proposal with the deadline, you have to fill directly on the system online the administrative and financial data and the full cost of your project and the requested amount of the budget for each partner. This is important for section 1 and also for section 2. And part 1, which is this document that I'm going to present in the next slides. Part 1, which is the administrative data, which is a template that you can download from the PRIMA website. You fill it and then upload the document as a PDF on the electronic submission system. The same as well for second stage, but you will find already your data there of the first stage reflected on the second stage. So you need to check it. You need maybe to correct in case of there is any changes. And then you need to upload the updated version of part 1, which will include as well some annexes like the ethical issues. This is the main section of the document of part 1, which is the administrative data of the participant organizations or the partners, the general information of your project, the ethical issues table, if you have it. This is for the second stage, and call specific questions. Just pay an attention that between first stage and the second stage, no modifications are allowed in the consortium composition. For instance, on the partners, on the coordinators, in the name of the principal investigators, on the budget, or on the scientific objectives. And please consider that the assessors will have access in the second stage while reviewing and evaluating your full application. They will also have access to the pre-proposal. So they will compare between what you promised on the first stage with what you write on the second stage. In the section 2, for section 2, sometimes maybe the national funding agency between the first stage and the second stage, they may request some adjustment or modification on the budget or in the partners. This is the only allowed modification between first stage and the second stage, and this is only upon the request from the national funding agency. Then this is the document of part 1 for the first stage, or for the second. It is the same, that you put the title of your proposal and then the acronym, then the list of the partners in this order. And please, this is one of the remarks or tips for you, that when you put an order for your partner, you have to respect it through all documents. For instance, on the online, they have to be exactly on the same order. On part 1, which is the administrative data, part 2, which is the scientific document for the first stage. On the second stage, it has to be in the same order, because this will help and will guide the reviewers to check directly when you say, yeah, partner 1, this is the Turkish partner, so it's fine. Yes, it's relevant, and so on. So it's really very important. And then the name of the principal investigator, the name of the organization, and the country. And you can add as many lines as you want based on the size of your consortium. Then you highlight which section you are applying for. If it's section 1 or section 2, you write down here which call and which topic that you are applying for. For instance, I'm applying for the call of the agro-food topic for the authentication and traceability, the type of the action, if it is research innovation action or innovation action, and you are not inventing this, but you are just checking what is written there. For instance, if we are talking about the topic 1.3.1, it is an innovation action. So you write here, it's an innovation action. And then duration in months, if it is like 3 years, so you will write 36 months. Please consider this, it is in months, not in years. And the most two important points, which are the free keywords, because we are using these keywords plus the abstract to assign the most appropriate assessor for your project. So it's very important to develop it carefully to make sure that you really reflect on the keywords and on the abstract, the scope and the idea beyond your project. As Marco mentioned in session 3, that this is the short summary, there is no score on this, but this is the first introductory part between our communication between you and the assessors. So it's really very important to carefully develop this abstract. Here you put the objective of your proposal, how you are going to achieve these objectives, and if there is like you show the relevance between your project and the scope of the call and the topic that you are going to address. Don't include any confidential information, because we used to print out all these abstracts, not your proposal, but just the abstract, and use plain type text, not to put like any figures or any tables inside, because it's going to be easier to be communicated. And then now we will start the technical part, which is the pre-proposal or the document itself, this is the beefy part of the application. This is the one that you will spend like days and weeks with your partners, getting backs and forth until you draft and you finalize this document. For the pre-proposal, we will finish today with the pre-proposal, and then tomorrow during session 5, we will discuss with you, or we will present to you the full application. Okay, so for the first, as we said that the PRIMA is a 2-stage submission procedure. For the first stage, you are requested, you have been asked to prepare just one document, or part 2, which is the technical part. Maximum page limit is 10 pages. Okay, this is the main section of the pre-proposal document. You need to put the title of the proposal, as Marco presented during the tips and tricks for session 3. The acronym, select or draft a good and relevant and catchy acronym that can be easily remembered by the assessors. And then the table of partners, the countries and PIs, as exactly you wrote on the part 1. And then for the sections, we have section 1, which is the excellence, or point 1, which is the excellence, and then the impact. For the excellence, we have 4 points under the excellence. 1.1, which is the objectives, even overall or the specific one, the relation to the call or the topic that you are gonna to address, the concept and methodology that you are gonna to apply, and the ambition beyond the state of the art. For section 2, which is the impact, it is only 1 point under it, which is 2.1, which is what are the expected impacts mentioned exactly on the work program. So you are matching between what your projects are gonna to develop with what our PRIMA is asking to achieve. We are gonna now to present each one of these points in details. So let's start with the excellence. As we said in the first session that for each part, for each section, it is out of 5. This is the score. And you have here 4 points under the excellence. The first one, or 1.1, which is the objectives, you need to present to the assessors your overall objective and the specific one. And already mentioned in session 3 for tips and tricks that you need to develop a SMART objectives, that it has to be specific to the goal, it has to be measurable, achievable, realistic. So you needn't to be too ambitious to your goals or overestimate. And this is one of the tricky points, because sometimes I'm competing against the others. So I want to impress the assessor that I'm going to do a lot of things during this or within this project. For sure, this is going to be negatively evaluated by the assessors, because you will have a limited resources, a limited time, a limited expertise within your consortium. So your targets and your objectives and the goals have to be matched with the resources that you will have. So this is really very important. As mentioned, that you can use like bullet points, and you can acronym it like specific objective 1, specific objective 2, and so on, and present the overall and general objective of your project. And then for sure the specific objective, which is more related to your project. The overall objective, as Marco mentioned, that it is like the holistical view of your project. Like I'm gonna to eradicate hunger, for instance, in the Mediterranean countries. For sure, not in one project you are gonna to eradicate hunger, but my project is gonna to be part of this big picture. Be precise and specific as much as you can. Avoid too open goals or overestimation. Reflect what is already written in the call text. So that's why we started with analyzing the call text, and you and your research team, your partners, you need to read again and again the call text to make sure that we perfectly understand all aspects and we didn't neglect or ignore any points. And this for sure need to be reflected on the objective, because from the call text you can extract all data. Like you can draft your title, you can draft the objectives, and you can as well reflect this on the impact, for instance. Avoid the narrative description, because remember that, or the implementation steps in details, because remember that you will have on the first stage, you will have only 10 pages to cover these points for the excellence, the 4 points, and also the point of the impact. So you need to use it wisely. Define as well the location or geographical coverage, like you are gonna to do some lab tests or field trials, for instance. Okay, mention the countries, mention the main stakeholders or the target groups that you are gonna to work with them. And those are a part or out of your consortium, but like there are like stakeholders or maybe users or the final beneficiaries of my technology that I'm going to develop. And you can mention as well the main deliverables. I'm here meaning by main deliverables or the chief deliverables. For instance, in your project, in the second stage, you will list down like 30 deliverables. Maybe not all of them are equally important. So for the first stage, because of the limitation of the pages that we have, so you just refer to maybe the main 3, 4, 5 main deliverables. Like for instance, I'm going to develop a new analytical devices for honey, for instance, in Tunisia and Turkey and Italy, for instance. So here I'm covering or mentioning the countries, the main deliverables, and also I will refer to the main stakeholders and targets. These are some questions that can guide me to develop a SMART objective. For instance, if my projects are going to address the challenges or demands at a national level, or is going to be at the regional level or at a global level. This is very important to be considered, because it will also reflect the importance or the weight of the impact, expected impact of your project. What is the concept of the proposed project and what should be achieved from my project? These questions, I will open it with my consortium members to try to brainstorm together in order to start drafting the first draft of our objective. And as we saw together in the session 3, that the development cycle of the proposal, it is like in a circular form, that we start maybe with the abstract, then we go to the objective, and maybe during the preparation and the development of the proposal, maybe we will return back and revisit again the abstract to reflect maybe some new ideas. So this is for the point 1.1, which is the objectives. Then 1.2, it's the relation between your project to the code and to the topic that you are gonna to address. And this is very important to read one more time the challenges and the scope, because it's very important not to squeeze my idea to fit inside the code topic that I'm gonna to address, but it has to be normally fitting to this, to the challenges and to the scope of the code topic. So once again, reflection from the code text state how your idea or your project are gonna to address not only the topic. That's why here we put it like from the higher umbrella, which is the PRIMA Strategic Research Innovation Agenda. Then the second level, maybe the call topic, the call text itself, and the specific challenges and the scope of this specific topic. Also, we need to consider that the PRIMA, it is a joint EU and Mediterranean program. So it is also very important to match or to highlight that my idea and my project is gonna as well to match with some EU relevant policies and strategies at the EU level, or if there is something similar as well at the regional level for Southern Eastern Mediterranean, for instance. So it is also very important to highlight this or to show this relation between my project and this already exist strategies and policies. You can use, because of the limitation of the pages and for wisely use the spaces, you can use maybe a tabular form. You can put maybe on the left column the addressed scope or challenges and how your project will respond to this challenge for each point, several points. The relevance to the particular demand of the target Mediterranean countries. As I said, that if there are some bigger initiatives in the region that can be as well aligned or be in a synergy with your project, this is very important to highlight this, because at the end it's not going to be like separate isolated projects or islands that we are going to fund, but for sure your project are going to be part of the mainstream in the region or in the countries that are going to be involved in your project. Refer to any significant plan undertaken at a national or regional or global level, and this is very important. And also wanted to share with you some feedbacks that we received from some assessors. For instance, you are going to develop a product through your project, and maybe you have Turkey on it as a partner, or maybe the coordinator, but unfortunately, maybe there is like a national regulation that prohibits developing or marketing this product maybe in Turkey. So in this case, the assessor will realize this during the evaluation process, and they will negatively evaluate this. That's why if I'm going to develop something, I have to consider as well any national or regional or global regulations, for instance, or laws that may prohibit the implementation of my project on the region, or maybe will assist my project outcome to be maybe commercialized in those countries involved in my consortium. Till now, we didn't talk about the idea itself. And now here on 1.3, we are gonna to start talking about, okay, what I'm gonna to do. Here we will start with the concept, which is the main ideas or the models that I'm gonna to develop during or within my project, for instance, or starting with explaining the overall concept underpinning my project. Here, very important, the second point about showing the interdisciplinary between the stakeholders and the partners' knowledge. And here we will present, or we will talk a little bit about the partners and the stakeholders. For sure, due to the limitation of the size of the grant and the time, and also for the preparation, you will not include all stakeholders in one consortium, but you will select the most relevant, the most active partners who already have knowledge which is relevant to the scope of your project, and there is like a complementarity between the different partners and different technologies. Each one of the partners will have a significant and very clear role in the consortium, and the stakeholders are outside your consortium. For instance, I'm gonna to cooperate, or I will develop a traceability, a tracing technology, for instance, or device for milk production. Okay, I'm gonna to only include in a consortium as a partner only one big milk producers, for instance. But maybe I can say that, okay, I'm gonna to cooperate with X number of those big manufacturers as well in milk production as a stakeholders. So they are not part of my consortium. They will not have any obligation toward the consortium or to the project. They will not receive any grant from the project, but they are gonna to cooperate with you. And this for sure would reflect on the communication, like how you are gonna to communicate with these stakeholders, how you can guarantee their engagement in your project. So like in the design phase, in the development, you will provide them the technology and then they will implement it on the actual life, and then they will come back to you with some results. Then include as well any measures taken for public and societal engagement of your project. Describe or position your project from the idea to application or from the lab to the market. And this is very essential if you are addressing a topic of innovation action. So this means that you will not end up with some publications or some reports, but maybe you need to produce at the end a real product or a real services or a real platform or solution that can be really entered to the market. And this is related to the second point about the technology readiness level. It is very important to show to the assessor your starting or your initial technology readiness level or the TRL and your final TRL or the planned TRL, because this is gonna to show to the assessor that you already do some work or your expertise, your knowledge and your partner's knowledge already achieve like TRL 4, for instance, and through your project under the PRIMA, you are gonna to develop this, like, or you increase or you will hire the final TRL to be like 7 or 8, and you will end up with like a new devices for traceability, for instance, and it can be ready to be commercialized. This is very important to show the technology that you already have, where are you now, and at the end of the project, where are you gonna to achieve or reach. And then again, describe any national or international research innovation action that's already implemented. Like for instance, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want the projects to start from scratch. But for instance, if you have like a previously funded H2020 project, for instance, and then you wanted to improve the outcomes, the research outcomes of this project, and you are gonna to build on the findings that you already have from the previous projects, so you can highlight this and show that you are going to synergize or complement with what you already achieve. Okay, the second part of 1.3, which is the applied methodology that you are going to apply in order to transfer your idea from just an idea and objective into a tangible results at the end. So you describe the overall or the applied methodology or approach that you are going to implement. And here, once again, please don't include the detailed activities and the steps, because maybe this can be elaborated more on the second stage, but here you just mention the applied approach in general, and then present the state of the art of the technologies used already in the market and its rationale, like for instance, and then my technology, my new solutions are gonna to overcome this drawbacks in the available alternatives. For instance, present the logic behind the work packages structure. Again, not the detailed one, but maybe you can invent like a tabular form with the main work packages or the main activities, the main subtasks, the rules of each partner, and the duration or the time frame of each one of these work packages. Okay, and you can as well highlight the type or the nature of this work packages, if it is like just for research, or it is for demonstration, or for piloting, or the first maybe market replication or penetrating the market. Also, you need to consider the gender dimension, and during the first half of the day, we received a question asking about what do we mean by the gender dimension that we need to consider. This is very important and always positively evaluated and considered by the assessors, that you have multiple level of gender dimension that you need to consider. First one, at the level of your consortium, that, for instance, who are your principal investigators or the project managers, or did you respect the gender dimension during the implementation or the management of your projects? Like, for instance, you have males and females responsible as work package leaders. You have, like, just an example, you have a female coordinator and you have maybe a male deputy coordinator, for instance. This is at the level of your project or at the management level. And also at the level of the final beneficiary or the target groups, like, okay, my solution can be used by female household, for instance, or by mothers, because the mother can maybe check through its her mobile application. She can check the authentication, for instance, of milk products before giving it to her child, for instance. So this is something that you need to consider as well. And as I said, it's positively evaluated. And here we put for you some guidance. You can refer to this H2020 documents for sex and gender analysis and issues to be considered. The last point under the excellence, which is 1.4, which is the ambition or beyond the state of the art. Okay, for sure, as I said, that we are not starting something from scratch, but there are also some technologies, relevant technologies in the market. There are maybe some solutions or alternatives. So how my solution are gonna to go beyond this state of the art, and to what extent the proposed work is ambitious. Like, for instance, you are gonna to show the novelty of your project and the added value, describe the innovation potential of your project and why it is really important to fund this project, and what would be the reflection of the project, why you choose this new technology, for instance, because for sure you have different technologies that can be applied, but you selected, like, for instance, to do PCR, for instance. But why? But maybe there are maybe some more modern technologies, but for sure you selected these technologies because of some advantages of other alternatives in the market. This is very important to show this to the assessors. In brief as well, you need to describe the nature and size of the tackled market. And tomorrow in session 5, we are gonna to share with you some very useful tools, like to develop at a very brief or tentatively business model canvas, or to develop a business plan in order to present or to describe to the assessors the weight of or the size of the tackled market. This is some general remarks and advices for the excellence part. You have to be precise, comprehensive, and realistic. As I said, please avoid too open goals. Show the rules and the involvement of each stakeholders, means here the end users, the partners, why you select those specific partners. They are not just your friends, for instance, or relatives, but they have a real involvement, a real participation. They have a knowledge that they are gonna to apply within the project. The top-notch scientific description of the updated state of the art, because sometimes maybe I assume that I have a very brilliant idea, but maybe the assessor will comment, yeah, but this is maybe an old technology and it's already implemented and already exists in the market. Ad hoc with other initiatives, as I said, that my project is just part of the big picture. So if there's like other networks or action, it's very important to show the sustainability of those actions, that, okay, we are applying to PRIMA based on the finding that we have, or based on networks that we already built through different other previous projects. Show the interdisciplinary expertise with the private sector, with the research centers, with the SMEs, with national authorities. And this is very important, that if you build like a consortium with 10 partners, not all of them will be like from private sector, or all of them from the research or academia, but it has to be like mixed from, like, maybe just, it's for sure it's up to you, but maybe 30% from the private sector, 30% or 45, 50% from the academia and from research center, and maybe 10% from SMEs, and the rest maybe from public authorities. For sure, it depends on the scope of your project and the countries and the technology that you are going to develop, but this is something really important to consider, especially if we are talking about innovation action, which means it's higher TRL. So the private sector and maybe the SMEs and the producers, their involvement is really very important and positively evaluated. Show the novelty, and the novelty is not only on the idea, but also in the process or in the solution or the methodology that you are going to apply, or on the way that you are going to present or to write it down on the documents or on the paper. So for instance, you can invent a very attractive PERT diagram, for instance, that can summarize the idea and the main points. And we are going to show this to you tomorrow during session 5. And here is also relevant that you can invent or draft like a graph or diagram that really can summarize in one diagram. You can summarize your idea perfectly to the assessor. So now we finish the excellence part with the general remark, and then we will go to the last part, which is the section 2, the impact part. Here on the pre-proposal or on the first stage, for the expected impact, we have only 1 point, 2.1, which is what are the expected impacts that you are gonna to produce, referring to the work program or the topic that you are gonna to address. You have to be clear and specific, and this is maybe the most difficult part on drafting the proposal, because all of you for sure are very professional experts in your fields, and you are very professional as well in writing the scientific documents and texts and so on. But it's always very difficult for anybody to expect what would be the expected impact of my project at the end of this project, or maybe even after concluding or beyond the lifetime of this project. So it's very important to avoid general terms that, okay, my project's gonna to, as I said, that maybe eliminate the hunger, for instance, in those countries, or my solution are gonna to be applied for all traditional Mediterranean food, because maybe this is not so relevant or maybe not so realistic. So you need to avoid the general terms. And this is lead us to the second point, which is use quantified indicators and targets and values whenever possible. So you need to be very specific in your activities, in your tasks, in your impact, because impacts used to be transferred or translated into indicators, like how many solutions that you are going to develop, how many food products that you are going to analyze, at which countries, for instance, how many stakeholders you are going to engage. All these have to be mentioned inside the pre-proposal, because it also reflects positively on the mind of the assessor, that you fully understand the technology that you are talking about, and also the countries that you are going to implement your project. You're also aware about this solution, and you fully consider all aspects related to this solution. Mention as well how you are going to verify or measure these KPIs, like for instance, you are going to develop X report, or you will do X field trials, how many workshops, for instance, you are going to organize, and so on. Classify the impact, and this was already mentioned in the first session, that the impact can be classified into social impact, economic impact, environmental, political, scientific, technological, advancement, and so on. So you can as well classify a set of social impacts, a set of scientific and technological advancement impact, for instance, of your solution, because once again, this positively evaluated and considered by the assessors. Define the target groups and the beneficiaries, like if you are talking about or addressing mothers, for instance, or the small farmers, or just the organic food market. This is very important, and also refer to the geographical coverage or the involved countries. When you, like for instance, just an example, if your consortium, you will have like 5 PRIMA participating states. So you can just focus on these 5 PRIMA participating states on your project, or you can say that, okay, my solution can also be replicated in other PRIMA participating states out of my consortium. But at the end, you have to be very specific that to mention, yes, this technology can be applied like for small farmers in Tunisia and Turkey and Italy and Spain, maybe. But this is the case that you need to be very specific in your description. Finally, describe your project that will contribute to the expected impact as mentioned in the PRIMA annual work program and the relevant topic. And here, once again, we are referring to the call text and the PRIMA annual work program, that you need to read it carefully, and especially in the call topic, you will find part called after the challenge scope and then the expected impact. So in fact, you are just, or you need to translate the expected impact as mentioned in the relevant topic to your expected impact of your project. Don't forget as well to mention the cross-cutting areas like ICT revolution or the gender issues or the digitalization, and strongly advise it, refer to the PRIMA 3. That's why you can see that throughout all presentations, we used to give you this and also the link, because it's very important to consider that your project, the topic are not out of the scope of the program, but it is under the umbrella of a program called PRIMA. So it's very important to refer to this strategic research innovation agenda and to the KPIs and the scope and expected impact as mentioned in this area. This is very important. Okay, general remarks for the pre-proposal for the excellence and also for the impact section. Please consider that you have, for the pre-proposal, you have 2 sections with equal score and equal weight and equal threshold. So you need please to pay equal attention to each one of these sections, because what we used to see sometimes that out of 10 pages, maybe some consortia devote like 9 pages for the excellence and only maybe half a page for the impact. This is going to be maybe perfectly evaluated for the excellence, like 5 out of 5, but maybe at the end they will receive like, or will be scored like 0 out of 5 for the impact. And in this case, the whole project will be failed because you failed to pass one of the sub threshold, which is the impact, which is 4 out of 5. This means that you need to pay equal attention, as I said, to the excellence and to the impact. This can be not only in the pages, because we are not asking you to have like 5 pages for the excellence and 5 pages for the impact, because again, you need to consider that for the excellence, you have 4 points to address: the objectives, the relation, and the concept methodology, and the ambition. But this is something that you need to balance between the number of pages, the time devoted to develop the excellence and the impact, and the way to present each part of these. But this is like personal advice or just maybe recommendation. It can be like 7 to 3 or 8 to 2 pages, like 7 pages for the excellence, or 8 pages, and maybe like 2 or 3 pages for the impact. But again, it is up to you. Please always remember that it's only 10 pages for the pre-proposal, so use it precisely and concisely. Don't waste spaces for the detailed implementation and the details of the work packages, because you will have this during the second stage if you have been invited, and instead you can just mention the key methodology applied, the main actions, the work packages in brief, the main outputs and outcomes, and the main added value of your project. And once again, please quantify as much as you can the outputs, the deliverables, the KPIs, the activities. Like for instance, if you are going to organize some workshops, so mention, okay, how many workshops you are going to organize and where, at which country, and who would be the target groups or the attendees for this workshops, and so on. Use tables, figures, and diagrams, but not extensively. Present a clear dissemination, communication, and exploitation plan, but again in brief. Show the rules and the engagement of your partners, the stakeholders, the end users, and the public, how you are gonna to secure their engagement in your project, and network and try to synergize with other previously or other actions and initiatives, respecting the national and regional policies and projects already implemented in your region. And this is the end of session 4. And thank you so much for your attention.
So thank you, Mohammed, for your presentation. So I think now we will have a success story. As you know, we have coordinators in PRIMA, which we are very proud of. So now I would like to invite Professor Fatih Özoğlu from Çukurova University. He is a coordinator of a PRIMA Section 2 project called BioPromed Food. He will explain his project and his success story and share his experiences. Professor, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Eda. Thank you very much. All the presentation, they are very beneficial and useful. Mohammed, Marco, I mean, really, they are very useful I listened all of them, and I really enjoyed that. Now, I would like to start my presentation. Let me share my screen, please. Okay, now can you see my screen? Okay, excellent. Before moving on to success story, I would like to thank the PRIMA and TÜBİTAK groups giving me the opportunity to tell the success story of my project. As every funded project has a story. The success story of the Biopromet food project, entitled Bioprotective Cultures and Bioactive Extract as Sustainable Combined Strategies to Improve the Shelf Life of Perishable Mediterranean Food, start with traveling from Adana to Bologna. Okay. Once upon a time, there was a man who worked at the Çukurova University. Every day he went his laboratories to do project analysis and scientific works. One day he was doing analysis at the laboratory and he decided to prepare the European Union project. Thus, he knew that he must have a network firstly. And he thought that who could be partners and which countries could be involved. While he was thinking, he remembered one his colleague from Croatia who worked at the Department of Marine Science in Split University. The project journey starts with this anecdote. Actually, I met with her personally a couple of years ago at the conference held in Split, Croatia. We have done some scientific work before we met personally. We had a couple of papers before preparation of the project. And her name is Vida Simat, who is later one of the main actors of the project. I am aware that if I prepare the project, I need some researchers. So I decided to visit Professor Simat in Split, and then I need to see Professor Gardini in Bologna. I communicated with Vida and Fagusto through email and WhatsApp about the project meeting in Bologna. So I mentioned my idea to them about the preparation of the European Union project, and they also agreed to meet with me in Bologna. In the middle of March in 2017, I traveled from Adana to Split through Zagreb to meet Professor Simat at the Department of Marine Sciences as a guest professor. I stayed 1 week in Split. While I was at the Marine Science Department, I had the opportunity to see the laboratory infrastructure of the department. So I knew that what kind of project activities could be carried out. At the same time, I had a chance to give a course about how to write a good scientific paper for early career staff at the department. After 1 week, we organized a meeting to meet the Professor Gardini at Bologna University. For these purposes, we rent a car for traveling from Split to Bologna. Vida was the driver and she drove the car through Slovenia. We stayed in one night in Udine city in Italy. Actually, I booked some room from Udine University guest house since I knew Professor Francesca Latulli at this university. So we were her guests. Next day, we visited her department's laboratories and their instrument since she invited us to her department. It was very good opportunity to see their facilities. After we had our lunch, we drove to Bologna and it took about 4 and 5 hours to go there. I remember when we arrived in Bologna, it was evening. Next day, we met with Professor Gardini in Bologna. After a short talk, we drove from Bologna to Cesana, since all the laboratories in biotechnological department are located in this city. The Cesana is about 1 hour distance from Bologna by driving. After welcome, we had a meeting in working office of Professor Gardini with his research assistant, Julia and Chiara. You can see in this photo. You can see in this photo the man who is sitting is Professor Gardini, and the lady Professor Vidasimat. She is from Marine Science Department, Croatia, Split. So we had a meeting in the Professor Gardini's working office as his research assistant, and also PhD student of the Vidasimat. I remember that it was very cheerful and useful meeting. We discussed some topic for the project, and 2 subjects were very interesting. Which first one was valorization of the waste from agri-food, and the other was related to the effects of bioactive component from seafood or macroalgae on perishable Mediterranean food. After discussion about the project, they told me that we can prepare a project, but we had one condition. I said, what is it? They said to me, we want you to be the project coordinator. If you are a project coordinator, we can prepare a project. I said, that's okay for me. We had a consensus. Who will be the coordinator? I said to them, I am honored, and I am honored to be project coordinator, and I will do my best. I have to tell you that I had some publication with both Vida and Fagusto before we meet, since we had some scientific activities, which mean we believe and trust ourselves, and this bring a success. This is the most important points in a consortium. It was 2 years ago. It was 2 years before we met personally with Fagusto in Bologna. I got an email from ResearchGate platform related to the paper that is similar to one of my research, and it was very interesting paper for me. I carefully read the email, and that is about the effects of the cell-free solution from lactic acid bacteria on foodborne pathogen and the food spoilage bacteria. The paper was produced by some of the researchers from Bologna University. So I thought that I must contact these authors, since we had common interest. I wrote the corresponding author, who is Dr. Giulia Tabanelli, saying that I would like to collaborate with you since we work in the same field. She responds that she would be happy to be kind of any collaboration. At that time, we were preparing the paper. You can see on the slide, the first paper is published in Agriculture and Food Chemistry. These are the first paper we are doing with these researchers. At that time, we were preparing a paper about impact of the cell-free supernatant of lactic acid bacteria. I thought that it would be a very good idea to make this paper together with these researchers, and with especially Julia. Julia, she is Fagusto's research assistant. She responded that she would be happy to be involved in this paper, but she suggested including her supervisor, who is Fagusto Gardini, and they would be happy to prepare this paper. Later, we publish it, as I just say that, in the Journal of the Agriculture and Food Chemistry. This is very good journal and respectable. This is how we met with Fagusto. After 2 years, he is one of the main actors of the BioPromet food project. Therefore, these kind of collaborations create the beneficial and perfect opportunity between the departments. I have more collaborations of the also these papers. Okay, so I believe in the collaboration to enlarge the network. So now, after this after giving this information, how we met these people, and now I need to move on to how to create this strong network. This is the key element for a successful project preparation. First, to make some publications. It could be research paper, it could be review paper, book chapter, with the potential project partners. This is number one. The second one, to attend some conferences, workshop, in order to create or build a good relation with the people who attend the meeting for future collaborations. And third one, to organize some workshop, meeting for some international colleagues as speaker or poster presentation, it doesn't matter. The fourth one is to visit some departments as guest professor or guest lecturer. So in order to enlarge the network, and also to give some courses for international students in abroad or overseas using the Erasmus exchange program or similar program to meet the potential partners for a project application. And lastly, to take place or attend some cost action project to enlarge the network for future collaboration. Now I am involved in two, I will mention this later. I have involved two cost action project. Really, this cost action makes the know many people. So it is easy to communicate. It is easy to build a network involving the cost action project. Mohammed knows that we recently submitted the cost action project. One of the project coordinator, the PRIMA 1919, one of the project coordinator from Italy, Anacona. So we just submitted. It was really good idea. So with this, as far as I remember, in this network, we have more than 70 people. Just we applied, we submitted the project. So we were the five of the, I think is the project coordinator, PRIMA project coordinator in this cost action project. I hope it would fund it. Okay. In next slide, this is the, I don't know why is the full screen is not working. I mean, yes, it's working. Now, I would like to show that in this slide, what kind of international relation and partner I have. Also, this is related to this PRIMA project. I have good relation with the Cornell University from USA. We have many papers with this university. And England, I graduated from England. Actually, I completed my MSc and PhD in England. So I have also good relation with this, especially Lincoln University, Hull University, Leicester, so on. And Italy really is one of the PRIMA partners, one of the our project partners. Biopromet partners. So it is really a good relation, scientific relation we have with this university. Spain, yes, also Spain, we have produced some papers, some research, and also Spain is one of other partners in this in our project. Croatia is the main actor of the, as I mentioned before, main actor of our project as well. Slovenia, also we included to Slovenia, so they are also our one of the partners. Also, I have some relation Poland, Portugal. As I just said, I involved cost action project. It is chairs from the Portugal. In the morning before the meeting, we have the other meeting. So I am one of the work group leaders. So I have really also, we have in this network, we have more than 300 people. So as I said before, the cost action is really good opportunity to create the, in a good network. Romania and Lithuania, Malaysia, Algeria, Tunisia, and also we recently submitted this project. And as I mentioned, this project, with the other PRIMA project coordinators in 2019. It's about food waste prevention, management, quantification, and valorization for sustainable Euro-Mediterranean agro-food. So we have given this project, we have submitted this project, is I think last month, so we are waiting the good result. Also, recently I have some collaboration with Germany, India, Norway, France, so on. So when you look at this slide, as I said before, we are the main actor for the Biopromet food project. So I mean, when I meet these people, and especially Fagusto, and Fagusto try to find the private company. We have 3 private company in our project, so he helped to find the private company. Is one of the large SMEs, and another is the small SME, small and medium enterprises. So we are the core group of this project. The other, Spain and Slovenia, they are comes after this core group. So I would like to give some tips, some success strategies and important tips. I mean, when you look at the idea and topic for the project, so you have to know the topic must be the trend. So I have very good experience about this because I have always reviewing some European Union project and also some papers from the different food science and technology or macrobiology journals. So they give me the some idea that what is the trend of the the topics. I mean, what is the topic for the science nowadays? So I know this very well because I am always reviewing the project and papers. So it is really good advantages for me. And as I said before, how to to create the network. I mean, this is easily. This is our the success story to build the good network, and it's after the the building the network, the successes comes. As I mentioned, this is very in details. So third one is project call. There are many project calls. Okay, European Union or the other sub call like PRIMA, for example. So I mean, it is easy. The first sometimes you can think the the topic, and or sometimes you can create the network before find the topic. It's up to the it's up to the project team. It's up to the coordinators. In my case, the first I built the network, and then we discussed the topic, and we were discussed and we were agreed the topic, which topic can be submitted as a project. And of course, preparation of the project, it has to be carefully prepared and vigorous. It must be vigorously. Otherwise, if there are some the error, some grammatical or syntax error in the text, so it is maybe the project is very good in a topic, but it's really bad idea to do if there are some the mistakes in the sentences. So reviewer really catch these and give the lower marks. Maybe the project maybe the project is novel, maybe the original, innovative, but also because if the evaluator don't understand the the content, so how can he or she evaluate the project or give the good marks? And submission, yes, all the necessary file have to be uploaded to the system. And evaluation, of course, if we know we know the evaluation criteria for the this PRIMA project, so it is very good advantages. What the evaluator looking for? So if if I know this, I can prepare my project according to this criteria. So the success comes after. Okay, after we meet in Bologna, this photo is taken is 2017 in Bologna. We celebrate our discussion. So because the discussion was very useful and beneficial. And also, this is the more pictures. This is, as I said before, Professor Fausto Gardin and the other colleagues from the Split University when I was giving a course about early career researchers. And when just a couple of things, I mean, I would like to give the objectives of our project. Why this project, I mean, is funded. I mean, so this really, it is really good idea to explain our objectives. Just a couple of sentences. The first, the project is focused on investigating the two innovative sustainable concepts. Is one, bioactive components, another, bioproductive culture, with the objectives of increase the efficiency of the food chain, to prolong the shelf life and enhance the safety of perishable Mediterranean food. And additionally, it's aimed to add the economic value to the food processing byproduct and reduce the food waste by using them as a resource of the bioactive components, which is olive oil, for example, which is olive leaves, for example. It is, as the Muhammad is mentioned, that's why I want to say this. The bioactive components is very important nowadays in the olive leaves and olive oils, with ability to improve the quality performance of Mediterranean foods. And consequently, the project will enable the reduction of the invasive physical treatments and synthetic preservatives and exploitation of the Mediterranean microbial biodiversity as of its agro-food system byproduct, implementing sustainable, low-cost innovative solution and optimizing the biotechnological tool, able to reduce the small-scale traditional production safety concern, as well as the meeting the consumer demands for fresh, minimally processed food by assuring the most severe safety parameters. I just can say that about the keywords also important. Our keywords were bioactive component, bioprotective culture, functional meat, starter, and active packaging. They are the very important keywords for the project. Okay, Marco and Mohammed is mentioned about the TRL. Yes, this is also important. I mean, when you when somebody prepare the project, they must be careful about this TRLA. So our project, in our case, our project, the TRLA start from 3 to 5 and so on. So when we look at this concept, the project objectives, the extraction, purification, and production of the bioactive components from different matrix, as I just said, fruits, for example, olives leaves, so the seaweeds, macroalgae, important for the Mediterranean economy and characterized by the great biodiversity. In Adriatic Sea, especially in the Split, really seaweed is the very great sources in Adriatic Sea. That's why one of the partner who work in seaweed, Split University, is macroalgae, processed byproduct from olive, grape. Grape also we have in Turkey, in Italy, in Spain, grape in everywhere, or fruits. So we will get some bioactive component from these material and demonstration of their antioxidant and antimicrobial properties in vivo conditions. And second, is really this subject is very important. Isolation and selection of the functional bioprotective lactic acid bacteria strain from spontaneous artisanal fermented meats, especially Bologna University do this job. do this work. Characterization and their inhibiting activity against the foodborne pathogen and their fermentation performance in order to select the bioactive and improve the functional starter cultures. A couple of months ago, Professor Fagusto write me email that please send some product for isolation and identification of the lactic acid bacteria. But because of the corona, I couldn't send it because we are not the member state of the European Union. We are the candidate. So they got from Spain, Slovenia, and Croatia. So maybe the other European Union countries. But maybe later next year, maybe we can send some sample to do the work. And lastly, application of the bioactive components and lactic acid isolate and their synergy, because we will use both bioactive component and their synergy in different food models, food packaging methods, and in development of the polymeric packaging. So that's why TRLA now is beyond the level 5. Food packaging methods and in the development of polymeric packaging material and evaluation of the necessary production of the technological parameters. Okay, now.
Fatih, sorry, this is Muhammad, sorry. If you can just finish, because we are already beyond the schedule.
Yeah,
so...
please, a couple of minutes, I will finish it.
Okay.
I know.
Okay, thank you so much.
A couple of, give me the 5 minutes and I will finish it, okay?
Okay, maybe 1 or 2 minutes maximum, sorry. Because we still have another success story, and then we will open the question and answer.
Just 5 minutes, please, I will finish it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you too, okay. When I submitted the project to the system, you can see this our partners in the slide. I said to my core group that this project would be funded. They said, how do you know that? I tried to explain the reason why the project could be accepted. The first, I know from my personal experience, since I have always reviewed, evaluate project for European and other countries. In addition, as I said before this, I also reviewed some paper for Food Science, Microbiology and Biotechnology Journal. So I know the trend, which means the topic or subject innovative or not. The second one is the excellence of the project, okay, was good, which means objectives of the project, relation of the topic, concept and methodology, as well as the ambition were clearly described and written. Thus, this is the second reason I said. The third one is the project impact, which are expected impact and measured to maximize impacts were described in a good manner. So project impact also good. So fourth one is implementation of the project, which are work plan, work packages, deliverables, and activities were also realistic and practical. In addition, management structure and milestone, as well as the procedure were convincing and clearly written. Lastly, the member of the consortium as a whole was excellent, since consortium consists of the 7 universities, 1 governmental research institution, and 1 large SMEs and 2 small medium enterprises. I mean, these are our partners, international partners, and just I'd like to tell you that Biopromet Food it is the project that is coordinated by one of the Turkish universities. It's the first PRIMA project. It is, and this our budget is about 831,000, and the project duration is about 36 months. When the project, I am finishing now. When the project were accepted, I said to my core group, do you remember what I said about the project after I loaded the file to system? They were very surprised and impressed. They understand that I have a very good experience and evaluation and review of the project. And as a last word, do you think that the project was funded by coincidence or chance? Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Fatih, for taking the time. We really appreciate all your expertise. And now we will have Professor Medit Öztop from METÜ, Middle East Technical University. Thank you, Professor Medit. Sorry to keep you waiting. There was a problem with the we had technical difficulties this morning, but thank you for waiting. And please, we will love to hear your presentation now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I will keep my presentation short so that we are going to keep on track. Okay, let me share my presentation. Okay, so I think we are ready. Well, our project, which we are coordinating from Turkey, has been funded in the last Section 1 calls of PRIMA in 2020. So it's really hard to think 9 months ago that I will have the chance to give a success story talk 9 months after. So that's a pleasure for me, and I would like to thank for inviting me to give this presentation. And I will also would like to thank specifically to Mohammed for his helps during the proposal submission stage, because I really bothered him a lot with my questions, but he always responded on time. So his helps are super. So you can always ask him, get his help during the proposal submission stage. Okay, our project, Phantom, functionalized tomato project, the products is proposed under the innovation action of Section 1. So the goal of the call was creating, reformulating traditional Mediterranean food products, which to adhere the loose tendency of those who are not following the Mediterranean diet. So that is why we tried to come up with a consortium of 16 partners. And in this, as you see, our consortium here, we have Turkey as represented by 5 different partners, and we have also partners from Croatia, Italy, Portugal, Tunisia, Greece, and also Spain. Well, we have also 3 industry partners, of which will help us in the consortium through achieving the technological readiness level. As mentioned in all the talks, this is a very crucial level aspect of the PRIMA project. So that is why we tried to follow that by including partners from industry, so that we will have the ability, we will have the access to make our production online in its real environment. Well, what is about Phantom? Well, it is about formulating new foods considering the traditional Mediterranean ingredients. And for that purpose, we have combined 2 unavoidable ingredients of the Mediterranean diet, which are olive and tomato. And considering also the recent trends for the plant protein, we also would like to include some plant proteins which will be obtained from waste, and that waste will be the sugar beet leaves. And for that purpose, we already have a sugar beet leaf producer who will providing us the beet leaves. And by considering these main ingredients, we are going to develop the products that you see here. So a tomato juice enhanced with olive and proteins, so tomato snacks, tomato powders, tomato sauces, and a tomato leather. And these products will all be produced under the scope of Phantom in the upcoming 4 years. Well, on the other slides, you see how our project will proceed. I'm not going to talk about the details. These are the scientific parts, but the important point here is that in each aspect of the project, we made the design such that there will be a smooth flow within the consortium so that everybody knows what they are going to do. We address all the points that have been mentioned in the call text, and novel technologies, impact have all been addressed throughout the work package which have been present in the proposal. So I'm just skipping here because we do not have enough time. I just want to concentrate on the key message, because that are the points which I think very valuable to have the proposal funded. Well, I have used the PRIMA partner search tool a lot, and 3 partners in my current consortium I found from the PRIMA partner search tool. So it's a very useful tool that you can find your partners. And I have also been involved in cost actions, as Professor Fatih mentioned. Some of my partners are also from my cost action. And with the partners that I know and with the partners that I have found through the search tool, well, I was able to come up with my consortium. But the crucial point, even while they're accessing through the search tool, is the preparing the invitation mail. So you have your idea in your mind, you need to prepare, let's say, like an abstract of what you are expect to do for your project, and then you need to come up with a very clear email to your partners so that they will be enthusiastic about what you're going to propose. So that is why I think this invitation email is one of the most crucial steps, and I think I have spent almost 2 weekends during this lockdowns to prepare my invitation email. And then we have the first stage. First stage is just 10 pages, Mohammed mentioned. Well, the crucial point again here is you need to be addressing all the points that are asked in the call text. You need to be concise, read the call document carefully, and address all points. And since this is an innovation action, the innovation nature of the project should be emphasized. What I have realized is that in such projects, probably we, especially as academic staff, we get used to the idea that we really need to prove the scientific part very much, and we spend more time on explaining the scientific part. But this action is specifically the innovation action. So the business plan, impact, implementation are also very crucial. So you have the idea in your mind, but rather than losing in the scientific details, I think it is very important to emphasize the innovation nature. And I think my PRIMA project got funded because we really had a good implementation and impact part. And I guess that is the part which we get also full score, almost full score. So this part, the transition between the workflows, the work package, who is going to do what, should be defined clearly. Tables, diagrams, you should definitely add to your proposal, but of course it should not be that much as well. So smooth flow between the VPs. One of the things that I have realized, I was also a partner in another PRIMA project which has not been funded even in the first stage. What I saw as the drawback of that project is when you assign a work package leader and let him or her to write his or her section, and then you combine the project, then there are some missing parts. So as the coordinator, especially, even though you communicate with the work package leaders, you should be responsible for having this smooth transition within the work package. And the person months, proper budgets, they all should be arranged in a balanced way so that you, the evaluation committee, will understand the contribution of each partner carefully. Well, all these resulted in for us to get a really high score from the project. And if you have any questions during the proposal stage, once the calls are open, I'm always willing to help. Just you can contact me. You can find my contact from the METU Web Food Engineering Department webpage. I will be pleased to answer. So throughout our project, we are also going to work in a pilot processing plant where we will be producing all these products. I'm not the only person in our METI team. We have also four other professors who will be contributing to the project. I talked very fast, but I just try to be concise, and I hope the information that I provided is sufficient. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Majid. Thank you for taking the time to present this, your valuable experience for us, and thank you for being concise as well. I wish you and Professor Fatih best of luck with your projects. I know carrying out a project is not easy, so I hope you will have success and best of luck to all of you.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, Mohammed, are we going to have Q&A?
Yes, yes. In fact, we have already received some questions, but first let me thank Fatih and Mesit for your very interesting presentations. In fact, it is always my pleasure communicating with you, Fatih, for sure. And this is maybe the first time to see you directly, Mesit. But I think it's not gonna to be the last one. And also just to share with all participants here that for Phantom, for instance, last year for 2020, we received for agri-food, we received 117 eligible proposals. This project was ranked the first in the first stage and on the second stage. So congratulations, you really deserve this success. You made a really great effort. Thank you so much and good luck. So now we open the floor for all participants who are still surviving with us now. For any questions, you can text us, you can raise a hand. So maybe we can give you a floor. Tomorrow, inshallah, we will have the meeting, inshallah, on time at 11 Barcelona time or Central Europe time, or 1 p.m. Turkey time. And we will recap in the beginning, and also we will open the floor for any question and answer from your side. And then we will continue with the rest of the agenda, session 5, 6, and then the budget. And then we will finish with session 8, how to build your consortium. And then we will open again for the question and answers. I think you received a question, Mesita, about are so many partners will be hard to manage? Okay, yeah, he is asking that your consortium is big. So is it gonna to be a hard task to manage your project?
Even in the submission stage, it was difficult, but as long as you really organize the work package and how things are going to flow, I think it's not going to be a problem. So that is what you need to take the responsibility as being a coordinator. It's a challenge, but that is what we already, how we start the journey.
Yeah. And the most important point here is that each partner has to have a clear role in the project, because sometimes, and this is one of the questions that we received on the Q&A, that how many partners I can invite from a single country. For section 1, there is no restriction for this, but it has to be justified, just to make sure that you are not inviting your colleague or your neighbor, for instance, to be part of this consortium. And for section 2, already Eda answered, but if you wanted to answer or to say something here, Eda?
For section 2, there is also no maximum amount of partners, but like Mohammed said, it has to be justified, because we will be evaluating the staff of your project, and if there is no need for so many people, we will not accept all of them. And for each partner, so for each institution, there can be a maximum of 10 researchers within the team. So also keep that in mind. And also, you cannot increase the budget the more you add partners. So that is also something to keep in mind in section 2.
Okay, so if there is no, okay, yes, we have one question, no question, many thanks. Okay. SME are allowed? It is yes. If this is a question for section 1, it is yes, but is even strongly advised and recommended for TÜBİTAK. Eda?
In section 2, SMEs are also allowed, yes.
Okay. So it is allowed for both. And for sure more, or strongly recommended more in innovation action, for sure. Because as I said that, you used to end up with, like Phantom, for instance, he will end up with some products that can be penetrate the market. So the private sector, the SMEs, big factories are also very important to be part of your consortium. Okay, if there is no more questions, so we will conclude here. If it is fine.
I guess, yes.
Okay, thank you so much for being with us today. Thanks a lot for our two great success stories from Turkey. And Eda, if you can please share again the link for tomorrow.
Yes, I will
and
send
we
an
will
email.
start. Yes.
Yes, I will send an email to all participants again. And I would like to remind you that this has been video recorded. So we will put this up online so you can rewatch it anytime you want. You can rewind the places maybe you missed. And at the end of the 2 days, we will share with you the presentations as well. So thank you everyone for your attendance. Thank you especially to PRIMA and to Professor Fatih and Professor Majid. We are so grateful that you could be here. Thank you so much. And I hope to see everybody tomorrow. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.